Friday night, February 4th? On this Friday night, August. You know why I said February? I looked at my phone and it says the 21st. You know what my anniversary is? February 21st. So I thought 21st, I thought February. But it's not February, folks. It is August 21st, 2026. All right, I'm going to have on tonight Dr. Peter Breggin to talk about this story with this lady named Lindsay Clancy, the one that is accused of killing her 3 children. But there's a list that's come out of the psychotropic drugs she was reportedly on when this occurred. I want to talk to psychiatrist Dr. Peter Breggin about this, okay? I pre-recorded an interview with him today, and I want to bring that to you right now, because this is a case making a lot of news. And in fact, she supposedly has raised over, or whoever's running her fund, a little online fund, has raised over, what I'm seeing, over $1 million. There are people online that are defending her or supporting her. Women are showing up to support her outside the courtroom. I'll show clips of that. Others, of course, are just trashing her up one wall and down the other. And I understand there's a lot of emotions. But what on earth is going on with a woman receiving this many psychotropic drugs, according to the news reports and screenshots I'm going to show tonight? Where is the responsibility for the medical establishment? Okay, so we're going to talk about that tonight. And then I'm going to go to an interview with Nicole Pearson. I had Nicole, who's an attorney and a mom, sitting in listening while I was interviewing Dr. Peter Breggin, so that when I went to her, she could respond to this. So I pre-recorded with everybody tonight. I've pre-recorded with everybody tonight due to Friday night. It's hard to find guests that want to come on a Friday night. Everybody wants to have a life. So she was sitting there listening in the green room to my interview with Peter Breggin. As a mom, as an attorney, she'll respond. She, of course, as you know, was doing a lot when it came to the shot and this mandating shots on people. She's also working with something known as thegeofight.com, thegeofight.com, and she's really working hard to deal with chemtrails. And this has gotten picked up by the media. So we want to talk about that. I also want to talk about mosquitoes, because my little granddaughter was just here. She got bit by some of these mosquitoes and got a huge whelp whenever she gets bit. Nicole knows of children, and I think even her own kids. Some of these kids are getting bit by these mosquitoes, and I've seen the pictures the parents have sent me of the humongous whelps that are coming up when the kids are getting bit by mosquitoes. What's going on with that? Now, we're going to get into tonight. We found out while we were recording with them this afternoon that they have dropped 1.5 million mosquitoes in Memphis, in the Mid-South. As you're going to hear me describe it tonight, we've never had a problem with mosquitoes. You can sit outside at night. It's not a big deal for us here in Memphis. I understand people in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan. Sure. Us here? No, not so much. Not till this year. So while I was recording with Nicole this afternoon, I typed in mosquitoes dropped in Memphis, found out 1.5 million. Why are they doing this? I'm going to talk to Nicole about that. And then we're going to go to Michael Weiner to deal with BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, the adding Iran. We have the issue with the bonds, the bond market. They're going to debase the dollar, it looks like, to try to get the debt paid cheaper. And Michael and many people are saying we're looking at a 30 to 40% drop in the value of the U.S. dollar at current price. There seems to be a convergence of many things, from world war, energy crisis, and a lot more. We're going to get into it all tonight. Okay? Remember, we're brought to you by you. We need your support. Worldviewfoundation.com. Worldviewfoundation.com. If you appreciate what we're doing, we need your support. Worldviewfoundation.com. Okay? And don't forget about all the great products and services over there at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Worldviewtube.com radio.com/sponsors. Also, would you like to get our brand new Worldview mug? We just had the logo a little bit redesigned. Can you play the clip again real quick, Logan? Show them while I talk, this beautiful mug. We got 400 of them in. We have to order them about 6 months in advance because that's how popular this company is. Okay? The emblem, the medallion on the mug, that is made separately from the mug and then affixed to the mug. They are no lead, dishwasher safe, microwave safe. You've seen me drinking out of them for years and years and years. Okay? And now you can have one as well. They're $29.99, I think. Right, Logan? Why? Because this is a really nice mug. It's handmade. The medallion is made separately, as I said, and affixed. This is not some cheap mug. This is a nice mug. Okay, you get what you pay for. We only have 400 of them. And then when they're gone, it'll take another 6 months to get them in. So if you want one, you can get one. And they even make great Christmas gifts. If you want to go ahead and get one for Christmas gifts and put it away. Maybe get one for you and the spouse. All right. There you go. We love our mugs here. There you go. The Worldview store, worldviewstore.com. Do you have all your emergency supplies? Your solo stoves, your pots to heat the water in the solo stove, the freeze-dried food, the EMT kits. Folks, they're telling us, oh, we could get hit with Iran. The power grid could go down. It could go down for 18 months, said a former guy high up in the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So do you have what it needs? Should the power go down for a few weeks or a few months? Dolly does. You know what, Dolly? I have actually, you're listening, don't you? Do you know that I've stored away your food when you eat? You know when you eat every night? That food you love when you eat every night? That food that I open for you that's really, really healthy for dogs, which we would love to sell to our people, but apparently they stopped us from having an affinity program with them. I like how you got your arm on my shoulder. Are you trying to tell me something? But do you know that I've ordered a bunch of that food for you and stuck it away so that if the power goes out, you have food? So Dad even thinks of you. I don't just have freeze-dried food for myself and the fam. I even put away your food. I got many, many months of your food stuck away. You know that? So that you can eat. Are you having a good day? Well, come back up here and say hello. Come on. Everybody was always asking about Dolly. Jerry is Logan's dog. And Jerry took over Dolly's bed today. Hey, you're drinking out of my mug. Wait a minute. You can't drink out of that mug. Plus, that's coffee. Black coffee. Let's see. Can I send over to Logan real quick the picture? Jerry took over the bed today. Logan, let's see if you get this in time.
I have it already. I'm sending it to myself.
All right.
On my Gmail.
And Dolly has not been so sure about Jerry. Dolly has not been so sure about Dolly, but they're finally bonding a little bit, it looks like. And Dolly actually was sharing her pet bed with what's supposed to be the control room dog. Is Jerry in there?
Yep.
Dolly's normally in here in the studio. Jerry's in the control room. But Jerry likes to come out here sometimes and get on the pet bed with Dolly. And Dolly got up, moved. She's like, But later in the day today, finally, for the first time, they're sharing the pet bed. So it's going well here. So while you wait to bring that up, let me go back to what I was saying before Dolly so delightfully interrupted me. Make sure you have what you need when we're at war or if we're going to go into massive inflation. This is real food. Real food. It's just freeze-dried. Okay? It also makes a great thing to barter with. And I bought a lot of extra to barter with. And if I don't need it, fine. But if I do, it's going to be one of the most valuable things I could barter with. Food. Because that's a necessity. So think of it as really a hard asset, a medium of exchange. Buy it for yourself. Buy it as a medium of exchange. And if you don't need it, after 25 years, if we're all still here, and you get to year 24, donate it to the Goodwill Salvation Army and take the write-off. There it is. Now, Dolly normally gets up and moves over to the Worldview Tube rug. But today she said, all right, Jerry, I'm going to accept you into the fam. And she stayed on the pet bed with Jerry. There you go. Jerry's a good boy. We still don't know what Jerry is. We got to get that test done. We think Jerry is a husky, lab, and something else. What is it, a King Cane or something?
No, I don't think he's that.
What's the other one?
I think it's Husky Lab Pitbull.
Well, the husky in the lab's going to outdo the pit bull. I'm not too worried. I'm not too scared of Jerry. He's a good boy. So Jerry's here. Dolly's here. So the show must go on. All right, worldviewstore.com. Worldviewstore.com. Big show tonight, folks. Dr. Peter Breggin, Nicole Pearson, and then a financial update on the bond market, energy crisis, dollar reset, and so much more with Michael Weiner. Let's get started. I did pre-recorded all of these today to bring to you because, again, it's Friday night. Hard to get guests on Friday night. Better to get them on Friday afternoon. So we just literally recorded these. They're not. Some of these are not even 90 minutes old yet. So they're basically live because some of them literally are not even 90 minutes old yet. Okay? So watch this. Join me now is Dr. Peter Breggin. Take a look at this headline. When mothers kill, isolation, psychiatric drugs, and the need for real support. The predictable human cost of our psychiatric system. I have been interviewing Dr. Breggin probably now for close to 15 years or more. And
I look pretty good for 15 years.
Yeah, you do look pretty good. And we're glad you're back and recovering after your stroke. And Doc, I called you a week or so ago. I said, are you going to write anything on this case? It's heartbreaking all the way around. For those who maybe don't know what I'm talking about, this lady's name is Lindsay Clancy, 36-year-old mother from Massachusetts. She's on trial for strangling her 3 young children. One's 5, one was 3, one's 8 months. Before apparently attempting to take her own life. This all happened back in 2023. Her defense centers on postpartum mental illness and 32 psychiatric medication prescriptions. Now, Massachusetts, isn't she real near you? Where do you live? Are you in New York somewhere?
We're upstate New York. What we have in common, I think, is the weather.
How far away are you by car?
Oh, I have no idea. Where is she in Massachusetts? She's in...
The point is, I can't believe they haven't called you in as a witness on her behalf.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised they haven't gotten in touch with me.
You're surprised they haven't gotten in touch with you?
Yeah.
Is that what you just said?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised.
Because you've basically testified in every major school shooting in America, right?
Well, a lot of them I've been involved in, at least gotten to see the medical records and give an opinion. Columbine in Denver. Not Denver, but what is that? That's
no, it was Denver. It was Denver.
The theater shooting. I've been quite a number of them, starting with Columbine.
I think Columbine was in Denver area, wasn't it, Logan? You can check it. I think it was.
Columbine is adjacent to Denver.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
So you've been involved in a lot of these, and I've interviewed you so many times. Logan, can you ask our magic software how far back, when was the first interview Brandon conducted with Dr. Peter Breggin? It should bring it right up. And I was interviewing you about these things, about these drugs, about these psychotropic drugs. So you, in your article at gingerbreggin.substack.com, what is this I'm looking at? Every medication Lindsay Clancy had filled leading up to the murder of her children?
Yeah, this was posted, I'm not sure by whom. Must have been by our lawyer. I had nothing to do with the creation of that. So it lists all of her meds. And if you look at starting December and all the way through for 2 weeks, she's on, each day she's getting another form of sedation. And so they're hitting all these various spots in her brain, neurotransmitters, different ones, causing sedation, which means that sedation is basically a lowering of your higher functions until you go to sleep. So she's not falling asleep on her feet, but she's going to have sluggish, confused brain function. It's kind of like you've been drinking too much. And that can just allow the worst to come out in a person, especially if they don't know it can do that. Because then you see, if you're drunk and you start getting very, very angry at your wife or your dog or your friend or whoever, or even in the bar, you start getting very angry. You realize, I'm drunk. Calm, don't go swinging at anybody. This is not the situation you want to have a fight or attack anybody. But if you're a person taking psych drugs, nobody's told you that, probably. And so you don't know that what's coming up inside you is not about reality.
Wow. Well, I just went to verify. New York Post has the same list you do. Lindsay, here are all the powerful drugs found in Lindsay Clancy's system after she strangled her 3 kids. And it looks like the same list. So I'm just verifying all of this. Look, it looks like a lot of the same stuff here.
Yeah, that is. Well, I can actually check it exactly.
Pardon?
I'll check it exactly. You've got amitriptyline, which is a quite sedative, potentially sedative sleep medication. Well, here's the Prozac on November 21. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same list.
At the beginning, I noticed she was on Ativan, October 2022. Then she was on Ativan again. That was October 21st. Then again on November 2nd. I'm looking for Ativan anymore. I see it January 5th, 2023. And when did she kill these kids reportedly?
In January, late January.
Okay. So I don't know. Ativan has a different reaction. I don't know. Maybe it has different reaction to different people. Doesn't something like Ativan generally calm people down, make them really mellow and
Well, actually, Ativan, the benzodiazepines, and she has diazepam, which is Valium, the last 2 days before. January 19th and January 23rd, she has 2 different doctors giving her diazepam, Valium. And their intention is to calm you down. But if you look at the diazepam full prescribing information from the FDA, it'll tell you it can cause paradoxical reactions, which is a kind of disinhibition where, while you're supposed to be getting calmed down because your brain's being suppressed, you lose your judgment, you lose some of your inhibiting functions, some of your cautions.
Would that be the same thing for Ativan?
Yes, exactly the same thing. They're both benzodiazepine sedatives. And so that she's getting this developing potential to, as she gets more and more sedated, to have the possibility of more and more sort of primitive emotions that usually one would control and quickly suppress coming out.
So,
And,
in other words, someone, particularly if they're, again, you're the psychiatrist, so I'm just asking, if someone's coming off these drugs, is it worse when they're coming off of them, like like they start having massive withdrawal and massive mood swings, get angry really easily, lose their temper really easily? But if you get back on them, you start getting more sedated. So I guess that's my question, number one. And number two, do you think that was the situation? Was she coming off of them or needed another couple shots of them? Because I know that when you take some of these pills, I've read reports that you can get very irritable coming down off of them.
well, absolutely. We don't know that. We have no evidence she was being withdrawn. But withdrawal from these medications is also dangerous. And so it's good to warn the audience, don't listen to me and go and rush and stop taking your meds, because they're as dangerous to come off as they are to go on to. As the FDA says, a change in medication will cause. In other words, a change in medication up or down tends to cause these adverse effects.
Now, this is partly what your practice as a psychiatrist has worked on, is patients coming to you and you're helping them slowly get off of the heavier doses.
Very slowly. Yes. I usually am able to take them off of all their meds and it's done slowly. I'm the only psychiatrist, as far as I know, who's written a medical textbook on psychiatric drug withdrawal.
And some of your books have been big sellers. We've discussed that in other shows.
Yeah.
By the way, I had them look up. I've been interviewing you for 13 years.
You look young.
See why I interview him?
Do.
You see why I interview him, Logan? But yeah, I've been interviewing you for 13 years now. Amazing. So, are they bringing in anyone? I mean, look, reportedly there's a picture here from the New York Post showing a bag full of pills. Where'd it go? Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Are they bringing somebody in? I haven't been following the trial.
I have no involvement in the trial. I can't speak to the trial at all.
So you haven't even watched it?
I haven't been watching it.
Yeah, me neither.
I wonder about, there's another lady that since this trial started has gone ahead and killed some of her children. And I wonder if she was watching the trial and got overstimulated.
Oh, you mean someone else has done this recently?
Yeah.
These are the three kids? Oh my.
They're little babies. The other thing I want to mention is that it's very common for women to have emotional ups and downs that are difficult to control by them during postpartum, because not only have you just gone through this incredibly exhausting and really can be terribly painful delivery, but as you come out of the delivery, your hormones go drastically changed. So up until that time, you've had a very high level of estrogen, a basic female hormone, which is well known now that shifts and that cause emotional disturbance and cognitive problems for women. And you're getting a drop that goes suddenly from way up to down near zero. A huge drop, the biggest drop of any of hormones that occurs naturally ever. And that contributes to a lot of disturbance. In addition, this woman is looking ahead to having 3 small children. And you're facing something like that. You need a lot of reassurance. You need a lot of kind of a circle around you. There's an old phrase, it takes a village to raise a child, but in fact, that's not so. It takes the village to take care of the family who raise the children. And the village don't raise the children, the family does.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes the family needs support, which is why, in our community, as with many, you hear about a family that's going through it, and people start bringing food, right? And the food train starts, and the prayer chain starts, and people send over maybe their personal cleaner that comes and cleans their home. They say, hey, I'm going to send my cleaner to your house. I'll pay for it to clean your house this week. The community kicks in. A lot of times it's surrounding a church. I know that. But she did have a nanny, Logan's telling me. Logan, you seem to know more about this case. Hop on the horn here. I have not followed this case. You're saying she had a nanny?
Yeah, that was in the court case.
So she did have some help. Now, there were a lot of conspiracies flying around, Logan and Dr. Breggin, that the husband maybe did it. And yet I don't think there's any proof of that from what I'm hearing. Right, guys?
I have no opinion on that. I don't have enough information. I just have seen the same
reports
theories floating around. Yeah. But I have no extra information on that, and I certainly don't have enough information to have an opinion on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems like that was, I don't know. I'm not following the trial, so I don't know what is coming out in the trial. Do you know, Logan? As far as what?
I just see clips of it. I think most of the stuff about the father is fake.
Mm-hmm.
People posting fake stuff on social media.
So people are posting stuff for clickbait.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a lot of women who have taken her side and want to blame it on him. And
well, speaking of that,
well, I think the drugs are very likely play a major role in this, both the postpartum and any lack of support, if there was a lack of support, and the drugs.
Well, I'm reading that so many people are wanting to help this woman, are siding with this woman, that she has managed to raise $1 million. Well, I don't know if she's raised, but whoever's got something set up for her is managed to raise, according to the screenshots, if they're to be believed, over $1 million. And they're going.
I'm sure there are many women who are deeply empathic and caring and remember what they went through postpartum and who are trying to help her. Be my guess.
So the people that are criticizing this, here's a post happening now. Crowd of female protesters gathered outside Plymouth Superior Court applauded Lindsay Clancy's defense attorney, thanking him for his work defending Clancy, who is accused of killing her children, 3 children. Now, I notice that some people are criticizing these women. Some of them are criticizing these women and saying these women actually vote, and they're thinking these women are off their rocker. But what I think I hear you saying is some of these women maybe went through this themselves and maybe found themselves on the brink of a real problem. And thankfully, maybe we're able to get help and push back. So some of this may not be that these people are crazy.
I've had perfectly fine women tell me that they came very close to losing control shortly after pregnancy with their children.
So just because those women are out there,
it's a tremendous burden to be left alone with the small children when you've just gone through the birthing process. And I'm sure many women feel that.
So some of these women out there may not just be some feminist man-hater leftist. They may just be sympathetic to her plight. Because they were there, or on the verge of it.
Yeah.
So apparently, Logan, has the defense rested?
Yeah, that's what I saw.
I don't want to get too graphic here because it's tough to watch. Can someone come give me my audio cord? Because I do want to play a little clip for Dr. Breggin. While I get that clip ready, because I've dropped my audio cord. What is it? Your message. What's your message about all this to people?
Beware multiple psychiatric drugs, whatever they are. If you're being given multiple psychiatric drugs and you don't really know who you are, very likely, there's enough disturbance going on that you can't connect properly to other people. One of the first things that happens to anybody on multiple psychiatric drugs is you start to lose that fine-tuning connectivity that we call love and empathy and caring. And it's very common for women who are put on drugs, often around the time of childbirth. They get depressed afterward, are very anxious and overwhelmed, and they put on the drugs instead of getting their life circumstances improved for them. And then they stay on these drugs for months or years, and when I begin to take them off years later, they go back to repair problems with their kids they've had because they were out of touch due to the drugs, and problems with their husband because they were out of touch because of the drugs. Mm-hmm. And I call this medication spellbinding in my book, Medication Madness. And does someone have to be on these drugs to have this kind of mental breakdown after birth, postpartum? So have you? No, people do have breakdowns postpartum. It's
even
postpartum,
without even being on the drugs.
It's called postpartum psychosis. It's in the DSM diagnostic manual.
Is that because of all the hormones and everything that's been involved in the process? Is that right?
Well, and because they need to not be medicalized and given drugs. They need to be loved and supported and cared for during that period of time. And
because I do hear of some people who have a child and they're kind of like not really looking they want another child, but they don't really want to have another child because the first child, they went into deep depression after the first child. They were not on any medications. They didn't get on any medications. They got through it. But after their first child, they went through really deep depression, anxiety. That's not uncommon, right?
Right. And I think women who are pregnant and going to deliver should discuss with their doctors or ask their doctors for a specialist where they can discuss control over their hormones during the withdrawal period from hormones that occurs postpartum, because they could get a booster of hormones and that could even that period of time out. Mm-hmm. It really is a huge hormonal crash. And the other thing is, a lot of the drugs that are in this list cause birth abnormalities. They cause withdrawal reactions in the children, these SSRIs that she's on, antidepressants that she's on. We know that kids end up becoming stressed during the postpartum period from withdrawal. It's not coming through the placenta anymore because these all cross the placenta and go into the baby's circulatory system and onto the brain.
So it impacts the baby as well after it's been born.
Absolutely.
How does it manifest itself on a baby?
Well, the baby will be showing painful emotions, anxiety, upset, crying.
Mm-hmm. And they're having withdrawal.
Withdrawal reaction, yeah.
What does that do to the baby's brain development while in uterus?
Well, we know it's affecting the brain development in utero, and that it's also affecting it as long as the mother is nursing, and it'll go through the mother's milk as well. So mothers need to be aware of this and try to find somebody who can talk to them sensibly about it.
Mm. Here's a little bit of a clip. Watch this. It's tough to watch, but here we go.
Yellow exercise band found with Dawson. First the pajama pants, pajama shirt, and then the pink robe. These markers, one exhibit.
Wow, notice she's not even looking.
They may be admitted.
She's not even watching.
Thank you.
And then Dawson's
Well, she may have very little memory for it, or it might
Really?
be just overwhelming to look. Yeah, the drugs often obliterate memory for the moment of a violent act. It's hard to tell if it's psychological or if it's the drugs that are causing the memory loss in retrospect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's grabbing tissue. She's not looking at this.
yellow exercise band found with Dawson.
That's really tough. I don't want to put you on the spot, but what should happen with someone like this? Why is this woman facing charges on her own? Do you believe these doctors bear any responsibility here?
Well, I don't think the doctor should be charged with in the criminal field, but I think there's a possibility, at least, that this is malpractice. This is polydrug. Well, what the word for this is polydrug therapy. When you start giving this many drugs, different drugs to one person, you're doing an experiment on that person because this has never been done by the FDA. It's not like the FDA checked what all these drugs would do to if you gave them to one person at a time. It'd be unethical for the FDA, even or for an ordinary doc, to try this. So there's no basis for even figuring out what might happen to somebody who was put on all these drugs. Are they going to get a major effect from the antidepressants that's unique, or a major effect from the antipsychotic drugs she's getting mixed in here, which are unique? She's at risk of getting what's called neuroleptic malignant syndrome from drugs like Seroquel that are dopamine blockers, but she's also at risk of getting a serotonin syndrome from the drugs here that stimulate serotonin, which there are multiple ones. And then she's getting them both at the same time, so you really have no way of knowing what may happen to her. So she's essentially an experiment of sorts that's being conducted. And there's no way to even inform her of what may happen other than, hey, this is dangerous, this is unpredictable.
Why is there no label? If we have labels on cigarettes, why don't we have labels on these drugs?
There are labels on these drugs.
There are.
They're called the full prescribing information. You can put into your Google FDA full prescribing information for any drug you're taking. And you can also go to, was it DrugsRx, honey?
Drugs.com.
Drugs.com. That's not FDA, but they're basically going to use that same data.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see what drug interactions you may be having that are dangerous. There are multiple ones here. almost every drug being given is in a dangerous interaction with another drug because almost all of them are very sedative in their effects. So they're just having multiple combinations on each other.
What do you think and by the way, I noticed apparently in this list, there's different doctors. How many different names am I looking at? 2 or 3?
No, multiple names here. I have not examined these records. I don't know. I can't go beyond what anybody can from this material.
It looks like I see at least 3 different names here. But is that common to have, if those reports are accurate, which again, I was looking at them over at the New York Post. That graphic is from Fox News, huh? And this one's over at the New York Post. So if we're looking here at potentially two to 3 different prescriptions here,
it almost looks like a courtroom exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
It says Fox News on it.
Yeah, it's what Logan said. Do the prescribers know that other prescribers are prescribing these pills or meds?
Well, in New York State, you can go and check. And with the benzos, they're going to be on record. Anything that's addictive, it's a Schedule 1 scheduled drug. You can look them up. You are supposed to ask the patient, and hopefully somebody is with the patient, whom you can also ask, who knows, maybe the husband or
family member,
a family member,
mother-in-law, right?
Yeah.
What do you think should happen to this lady,
She was
Lindsay?
a nurse. She had a daily log.
Well, I can tell you that nobody on all these drugs at once for this period of time is going to be in their right mind. So this is a huge polydrug experiment, and nobody could predict what would happen to this woman or what she might do, other than she's almost certainly going to be cognitively impaired by all these drugs. That is, she won't be able to think straight.
Do you think she should be found innocent by reason of insanity?
Let me add one thing onto it, which I just found reading it today. And that is, her husband says that last time he saw her, she was really happy. She had one of her best days ever, something like that. And I've warned in my writings, because I see it so often in my work, that when a patient is on a lot of drugs and they tell you they feel better than ever, that is not a good sign. That's not how God set us up to work. We're not supposed to get better on drugs. If that's happening, that's because you've lost your judgment, that you feel better than ever. And this happens all the time. You start somebody on Prozac or Paxil or Zoloft and Lexapro, this SSRI antidepressants, and they go to return to the doctor a week later and they say, "I'm better than ever, doc." And he says, "That's really good news. Tell me." He said, "Well, I feel better. I'm exercising." And the doc doesn't stop and say, "Are you doing anything weird?" "Well, I've never spent a lot of money before, but I went and bought a new car." "What kind did you buy?" "Oh, I bought a refurbished racing car. It's a lot of fun. I've had so much fun driving here." I mean, so if you don't ask a few questions, you might not find out that feeling better than ever is not a good sign.
Feeling better than ever means you may have lost your judgment.
You may have lost your judgment.
Your reason, your logic.
She's feeling better than ever at this point. She's in no position, the perfect illustration of what I call medication spellbinding. You're in no position to know whether you're being helped by a drug. The psychiatric drug industry and psychiatrists make a fortune on the fact that patients can't really tell how messed up they get on psych drugs, because sometimes it's pretty subtle, but it's important. You're just not feeling loving anymore.
Yeah, I think the doctor cleaned it up for us there, didn't he, Logan? Doc, as we close, what do you think should happen to this lady? Should she be found not guilty?
I don't want to make an opinion on the case because I've not been called about it and because I don't have any inside information to give you. I would have to say I would probably testify in this case if this kind of material is confirmed, I would probably testify that she had polydrug therapy and was not in control of herself or was not legally sane at the time.
Let me give a quote. This is from his latest article as we wrap. He says, and this is the most dangerous thing will ever do, Dr. Peter Breggin. Is that one of your books?
I don't know what we're looking at here.
It's from your latest article. I got to verify it's me.
Yeah, it's from the article. I think that's from my article.
But I think it's from it's from a 2020, I guess another 2020 article. You're quoting yourself from a 2020 article is what it looks like. Okay, from Breggin.com. But in the way you quote this, this is from his latest article on this case, which is at gingerbreggin.com. Okay. So this is what he says.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Quote,
saying.
as a group, psychiatrists are by far the most arrogant and cavalier prescribers in the field of medicine. They commonly do things that your family doctor would feel is beyond his or her skill level and even unwise, such as starting patients on several drugs at once, giving multiple drugs at maximum doses or higher, changing and stopping drugs without a taper, and getting very angry when your patients complain or want help in lowering doses or getting off the drugs, end quote.
Yeah, that's me.
That's you.
I just wrote that recently.
Well, that's actually, I think, that's quoting you from a 2020 article.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's quoting you from a March 2nd, 2020 article.
Okay.
You and Ginger are quoting yourself, but
I think what Ginger did was put up an article I wrote in 2020.
Yep.
But that doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Well, the bottom.
She quoted me from a 2020 article. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, this is very, very sad. You deal with it in your article, gingerbreggin.com, things like the loneliness of modern motherhood. He goes into that. And this is, again, gingerbreggin.substack.com, gingerbreggin.substack.com, the known dangers of SSRIs to mothers and babies. So, folks, this is a lengthy article written by this psychiatrist who's often been called the conscience of psychiatry, because he does these kind of articles and books. He's got many best-selling books. The massive hormonal shifts before, during, and after childbirth. So you might want to spread this stuff around, folks, because we keep seeing these stories over and over. What actually helps, restoration of human care, and so much more. I've been interviewing you now for 13 years, and then I heard Michael Savage interview you several times, but I was interviewing you before Michael Savage. Just for the record.
Before.
And you are, again, trying to warn people, give them information so these kind of horrific things don't happen. I hope people will go to read the article, because we've heard this before. Sadly, we'll hear it again. You don't want it happening to your loved ones. When you have a child being born in the family, give a lot of love and attention to the mother. Understand what's going on, postpartum, so many things. So be aware of what they're on, how much they're on. Be involved, particularly as a family member, moms, mother-in-laws. I don't know, mother-in-laws might have a harder time.
Try to have one physician prescribing, not multiple. Because it is difficult for multiple doctors to keep track of what's going on with each other.
Real tragedy. Well, he's back after having a stroke. He's doing great. You actually have improved since our last interview, so I can tell you're making progress.
I want to tell my wife. Brennan says I've improved since the last time you saw me.
I think so too.
His speech and everything
is Ginger Breggin.
Yep, his speech and everything has even gotten better. Ginger?
He says his speech and everything has gotten better. I owe it all to my wife. God bless her.
Well, and all of our audience been praying for you.
And to people like you who still want to hear from me.
Of course I do.
That gets me going.
How young are you now?
I'm 90.
Are you serious?
Did he not know it?
He didn't know.
If I did, I forgot. Does he look 90? Wow. And he's still going, and you're still seeing patients, right?
Yes, definitely.
And oh my.
I love doing therapy. I love helping people.
Well, you clearly don't believe in retirement because you sure had the excuse to retire if you wanted to.
That's a good thing you're doing.
When we get happy, our dog either gets excited or by chance somebody's come to the door.
All right. Well, I'm glad you were with us tonight. Our audience is happy to have you here, and I hope they'll check out
I'm
the article.
always glad to be here.
Well,
Always glad.
gingerbreggin.substack.com for the latest. Thank you. All right, guys,
Thank
we'll
you.
be right back with Nicole Pearson right after this.
At a certain age, you stop chasing younger. You start protecting what helps you feel steady, strong, and well. Your body's collagen matters. It supports the structure of your skin, joints, and connective tissue. But as the years go by, your body needs more support from the inside. That's where Bella Grace Elixir comes in. Bella Grace Elixir combines Verisol collagen, the world's most clinically proven collagen, with asteryl astaxanthin and cat's claw in a proprietary blend designed to help support the processes that reconstruct collagen, while also offering antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. And this isn't just for women. It's for men and women who want to age with more confidence, more care, and a daily wellness routine that supports the body from within. One simple elixir, thoughtfully formulated for whole body wellness. Take care of the body that has carried you this far. Order Bella Grace Elixir today at melissahousebg.com.
Joining me now is Nicole Pearson. Here is her X feed, by the way. There it is, at Nicole Pearson JD, at Nicole Pearson JD. And of course, you know her website, factslawtruthjustice.com, factslawtruthjustice.com. Nicole is back because she's been very busy. Very hard to get her booked, by the way, because she's either in court or testifying. But we persist, and she's patient with us and is coming back to be with us tonight. Nicole, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Be honest, I forced myself on the show.
No,
today.
you don't. I reach out to you. I tell you, hey, if there's anything that hops up here, I need to know about it. Come on. So, no, you're very good to follow through and keep us in the loop. As a mother, as an attorney, this case, this very tragic case dealing with Lindsay Clancy, I know you were sitting here listening in the green room. What are your thoughts on what you just heard? As an attorney and a mother, this has got to strike with you, right?
It does. I honestly have not been following the case from just sheer incapacity to be following that. And honestly, like you just mentioned, just emotional capacity. I haven't been able to follow that tragedy. But you know, it's been very interesting to see the response from people on, you know, the Twitter sphere and on the internet, and see women advocating for her, and then also, you know, defending for her, and then also coming out against her. This is a very, very tricky situation, but what I would point out is, from someone who doesn't have a medical background, but just looking at the medical records, like you just went over that exhibit, that looks like gross medical negligence, recklessness. I absolutely think that there's liability there. I appreciate Dr. Breggin's position that there is information available on the internet, but when you go to a professional, you're expecting them to be giving you advice, to understand your medical history and your needs and the medicines and the treatments that they're giving you. And so it's absolutely reasonable for her to have expected that and assumed that her providers were giving her the best care. So I think there's absolutely a factor there to be taken into consideration. Wow.
Yeah. The whole thing is tragic. And I know people are lining up for her, against her, all that kind of thing. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, wow, for her, against her. I mean, do people know enough? Do they know? And after you watch tonight's interview, you're going, yeah, I mean, this is tragic for the children, obviously. Tragic for the father, the husband, who I don't know they're even married anymore, but it's tragic for the poor lady too, because you're like, she's going to doctors, like you say, she's finding herself in a spot. So I think a lot of people rushing to make a blanket judgment against her are not understanding the psychiatric truth of what was brought out tonight by Dr. Breggin, who has been telling us this for 13 years. So when I heard the case, I immediately thought, how many psychotropics was she on, right? Because that's what
100%.
Dr. Breggin's trained me to do, to ask that question.
Well, I think there's a lot of nuances, and especially a lot of nuance, excuse me. And then after the last 5, 6 years, we have to understand that it's a pharmaceutical industrial complex. They do not have our best interests in mind. We're completely inundated all day long with so much information overload. I mean, just everyday citizens, individuals, not necessarily moms, but we have the internet, we have social media, we're getting pinged with notifications, we're overwhelmed, we're taking on too much, we're connected constantly 24/7. I mean, just from that perspective, it's just difficult to survive, just to live, regardless of whether you have children or not. Then we are here being poisoned from, in our skies, in our water, in our air, in our food. We're wondering why we have mood swings, why we have brain fog, why we're irritable, depressed. There's so much going on already, again, for everyday individuals, not necessarily moms. And then on top of it, I think that there has just been a lack of appreciation or a deep appreciation of what it means to be a mother, to create a human being, to grow a human being, and then to have that human being rely on you for the first several years of its life and almost exclusively on you for the first several months of your life. You're sleep deprived, which is a form of torture in war. There's memes before that predated this trial about, wait a minute, sleep deprivation, auditory, all of these things that you kind of endure or have the privilege of experiencing as a parent, if you put it in a different context, is a form of torture. So, there's a lot of physical and psychological and emotional stress. To just forget also the fact that you're constantly worried about your child, whether they're getting, enough love, enough supervision, whether they're safe, whether they're healthy, all of these things. But postpartum depression is real. Exhaustion is real. I think that people watching know that when you have a poor night's sleep, the next day you're like, this is the worst day of my life. The second you get those 8 hours of sleep, you're like on cloud 9 dropping down the street. So it is a real, again, I'm not a medical professional. I am a woman. I am a mother. And I would not say I've never been clinically diagnosed with that. But when the sleep deprivation hits, it is something that is real, it's impactful, and it's very painful to endure, and it's difficult to navigate. But more importantly than that, when you are navigating the gauntlet of the pharmaceutical industrial complex, of the medical industrial complex that we know makes money on keeping you afraid and ignorant and dependent, addicted to their drugs, then you are a victim. I mean, she could very well be a victim of this system. And I mean, look at that list, look at that exhibit, look at that the number of drugs that she was on. And as Dr. Breggin accurately pointed out, starting an individual on more than one drug is the same way as giving multiple vaccines at the same time. Then you can't point to which one is the problem. And I mean, it is a recipe for disaster. So I empathize with her. I don't want to say that postpartum depression is a defense to murdering your children. It absolutely isn't. But I will say, to have gotten to that point she must have been very suffering. I just, unless she is a murderer, and I don't know her and I don't know her history, she must have been pushed to the brink, because there are tons of moms who do a ton of things. But strangling each one of your 3 children individually with an exercise band must have taken a lot. I mean, I can't imagine what she must have been thinking or not thinking to have done that.
The whole thing is horrific. But again, what we're doing tonight, a lot of people aren't doing. I don't think you're going to see a lot of news or TV programs do this, in my opinion, because so many of the advertisers are
Exactly.
The pharmaceutical companies, are they not?
Exactly. You see them. Take this, you'll feel great. You'll have diarrhea and you'll be bleeding out your eyeballs and you may have a heart attack, but buy our product. So we all are familiar with the advertisement. So again, we are run by the pharmaceutical mafia, by the medical mafia, which is actually, this actually dovetails, unfortunately, with the reason that I came onto the show with President Trump's executive order. But we need to be aware of what is happening and what our rights are. So like you said, we can protect ourselves, our children, and our loved ones to make sure they don't fall prey to the system.
Yeah, indeed. All right, let's move to this executive order by President Trump, please.
Absolutely. Hopefully most of your viewers know the reason why I wanted to get on the show is that on August 10th, President Trump signed this executive order, and I'm going to read the title. It's called Delivering Gold Standard Childhood Vaccine Recommendations for Americans, which is a little bit of a mouthful. And I also wanted to show your viewers that I'm a lawyer. I'm an experienced constitutional lawyer, human and civil rights lawyer, and I still print these out. And I recommend that people do, because people want you to believe that it's complicated to understand what's going on, what the laws are, and it is not that complicated if you just take the time to research it. So this is a really important executive order because I'm not sure if your viewers are familiar, but what President Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had done as Secretary of HHS, they had reorganized ACIP, that's the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, and it's a federal agency that allegedly conducts research and then reviews the data and then makes recommendations to the CDC. And then the CDC makes recommendations on a variety of health issues, but right now we're specifically concerned with the vaccines. And so over the last however many years, ACIP and CDC have been issuing recommendations for adults and also for children and adolescents. And so he has made significant changes to that committee, to the CDC, and to the recommendations. And so this is going to have a huge impact on how people just really live their lives as American citizens.
So you're obviously very happy about this executive order, but and I am too. We did report on it, talked about it with Dr. Thor, Nick Holscher, and other people. But will these agencies follow through and actually do what he's told them to do? Because we know these agencies are just filled up with a lot of bureaucrats that many of them have openly bragged on some conference calls. We're not following through on stuff we're told. We're here to create problems, to just wait out the clock.
Well, to be clear, this is within his executive power as the president of the United States. He does have the authority to issue these types of executive orders. It is not a law. What it is doing, because a law can only be enacted by Congress, or as we've seen in our state legislatures, and then obviously the judiciary, the judicial branch helps strike the balance, right, in the separation of powers between the executive, the legislative that makes the laws, and the judiciary that enforces the laws and makes sure that, there's a system of checks and balances. What this executive order has done is stated the federal policy with respect to childhood and adolescent vaccinations. And where that really becomes significant is in the school setting, right? And what we have seen, and if everybody remembers from COVID, is we saw a federal administration made it very clear that its policy was to have everybody vaccinated, regardless of whether they needed it, whether they knew what the vaccine was, or the bioweapon, I should say, the gene therapy was, what it would do, whether there were alternatives, and even what the virus was that they were allegedly being vaccinated against. So this is a huge swing in the pendulum. We have come from the Biden administration, who didn't care about the science or the medicine or your constitutional rights to privacy, bodily autonomy, your parental rights, your due process rights. And now we have seen a president who has actually taken a formal public position that we are now going to be keeping up and keeping tabs on peer standards. So they compared, what they did is HHS and the head of the CDC, the former head of the CDC, was they conducted a study comparing the United States, America's vaccine recommendations to 20 peer countries, that's developed countries. And they realized that we recommend almost double the amount of doses as these other countries. And so we're going to be keeping tabs on that, making sure that our standards align with them. And then that they're going to actually be following the Constitution, following federal law. And that's specifically set out in this executive order. And that is extremely important for someone such as myself with Facts, Law, Truth, Justice, and my other colleagues and other organizations who have been fighting for informed consent, medical freedom, bodily autonomy, parental rights. That's the right to direct the education and upbringing and care of your child, medical and also religious beliefs and upbringing, faith formation. This is huge because what we have seen is federal agencies intervening in our lawsuits, actually filing lawsuits, for example, against parents who want to be involved in the medical decisions of their children, who want to be involved in their child's education, who want to be involved in their religious upbringing. And so now we've seen an order from the president saying, we are no longer going to be pursuing those avenues. We're going to follow the U.S. Constitution, protecting these constitutional rights, intervening on behalf of individuals who are advocating for these federal statutory and constitutional rights, and basically upholding the law and restoring these fundamental freedoms that myself and others have been fighting for the last 6 years.
And let's give it some more good news. We don't get to do this very often. This executive order, of course, is a good news story. Another one is that you've also retweeted about is Dr. Kirk Moore. We've been following this guy's case. They're about to try to throw him in prison for giving people saline shots instead of the COVID shots. No telling how many lives he saved. Here he is.
You go in here, what are your thoughts about right now that you're seeing all this?
The body of innocent Americans. Just seeing people I haven't seen in years come over and stand with us in court. It's just unbelievable.
So when you, this is why you did it, right? Because you love the people you are here.
I did what was right. You know, I didn't have anybody in mind except for just doing what was right. So it wasn't for me, it wasn't for Elena, it wasn't for kids, it wasn't for anybody, it was just doing what's right.
It's going to happen.
Wow. So he was giving out saline shots. The saline solution instead of the shot that has damaged so many, killed so many. But they were trying to throw him in prison, weren't they?
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, or hopefully your viewers know about AB 2098, which is a bill that I testified against, which said that doctors in California who were giving advice that didn't run, completely aligned with the CDC regarding COVID-19 and transmission and treatment, that they were at risk of of losing their medical license. And we actually had several doctors, including Dr. Pierre Corey and others, who lost their medical license and were prosecuted under this law. So it was a very real threat that was happening. We had thousands of doctors leave the state because of bills that became law, such as AB 2098. And so what he was experiencing is a reality for many, many doctors. So to have the president say the policy now of this administration, and we will be directing agencies to perform their functions, in alignment with this policy, is to respect individuals' constitutional rights and to do whatever is necessary to help them vindicate their rights when those rights are being infringed. That is a major change in policy, and that is extremely hopeful for attorneys such as myself who have lawsuits pending and lawsuits that are coming to do just that.
Let's talk about the story that I think interviewed you last about, and that was the chemtrails. Now, this, of course, that I kind of hesitated there for a moment, because chemtrails, as soon as someone hears that, they think, oh no, Bigfoot, Loch Ness monster. But we know that this is real. We know it's legit. I can still remember to this day standing in a foyer of a church in Wichita, Kansas. Had to be around 2008, 2009. And a man came up to my wife and I and began talking with us, and everyone eventually left. The conference ended. I signed books. They all left, and he was still the last one. And this man, what he would do is he'd take people's blood work and have it tested, and all these patients, I think it was like a natural pathogen, or what do you call these?
Naturopath.
Thank you. And a lot of these people's blood work was coming back with all this stuff in it that, like, they shouldn't be having any of this in their blood. They're not doing anything that should have this in their blood. He said the only thing is that they're obviously spraying something. How else would this be getting in their blood? And the guy was very sincere, very genuine, very educated, and you stand there listening going, is this real? And of course, as I studied it more, watched it more, I'm like, it is real. And then we started having news departments running stories showing the sprayers on the airplanes, for Pete's sake. So again, here we are. All these conspiracies we've been told have turned out to be true. And this is another one of them. And yet, I think we saw something on your Twitter feed where Politico was writing, here it is. Here's the article. Let's see if I can bring this up. Politico is writing how a conspiracy-fueled campaign could turn Republicans against weather modification. Is that the full interview? I'm trying to get it to come up here. But what is that about?
Okay. Well, in addition to FLTJ, Facts, Law, Truth, Justice, which is my advocacy and law firm that is basically litigating at this point in time, has been litigating constitutional and human and civil rights and medical freedom space and the freedom space. We have launched the GeoFight, which is a coalition of experts. That's doctors, environmentalists, meteorologists, legislators, lobbyists, and I don't know if I mentioned doctors, and then 3 attorneys, because we are filing lawsuits to stop what's going on in our skies. And Politico did I think they tried to make a hit piece, but it actually has been very helpful because this is not, as you just mentioned, is a conspiracy theory. If you walk outside, you will see that the sky is not the same as it was previously. And there are a variety of mechanisms for what's happening in the skies. There are small scale localized weather modification programs, which is what you were just referring to. Those are those small, chase sunsets, creating sunsets, make it rain. Those small business operators that they kind of put out in the forefront. They did a couple of Sean Ryan interviews and some big interviews about Augustus, the CEO of that small weather modification company. And what they do is they'll do for a couple $100,000 when there is a storm system or a weather system coming by, and you are, for example, an owner, a rancher, or you are a farmer, or you own a mountain that as a resort town, and there has been significant weather changes, and you think that you're going to suffer a financial loss, you can hire his services to, when a weather system passes by, throw up typically silver iodine into the clouds to help the water molecules condense and then either drop rain or drop snow, so then you don't have a dry season. So then you can open up your mountain and you don't lose $20 million in revenues, or you can water your crops and feed your animals. Those are weather modification. It's very interesting because when you go to red states, which is the Republican states, which is what the article was referring to, is a lot of conservative, middle of America farming families and organizations are in favor of weather modification because they are trying to save their farms and their their livestock from drought because of other things that are going on with our environment and our climate. So that's weather modification. But geoengineering is not attempting to modify temporary weather patterns, but to modify the climate, the world's climate. That's something that's been going on for decades. It went on in World War II, World War I, Operation Popeye. If you look at my Instagram, you'll see a lot of these. I just posted a history of these operations, these geoengineering operations. You can also follow Reclaim Our Skies on Instagram, or excuse me, on X is a great resource, a lot of research. And those are about changing the climate. And so when under the larger umbrella of geoengineering is you have what's predominantly solar radiation management. And the story, the narrative is there's climate change, there's global warming, and how can we stop global warming? Well, one of the ways we can do this is not from me, obviously, but from the experts, is to reflect the sun's rays and heat from the surface of the earth. So solar radiation management, managing the radiation coming from the sun, the heat that's coming from the sun. How can we do that? One, marine cloud brightening. That's what you see off the coast. I've done a lot of stories on that big fog bank that people are calling it June gloom or marine layer. It's not that. It's that there are tankers off the coast that are spraying chemicals into the low marine layer and making it thicker and denser, allegedly to reflect the sun's rays to reduce the heat. There's also SAI aerosolized injections. So the other option, and this is what we were been working on, is a petition against Stardust Solutions, an Israeli-based company that has raised $75 million. And they would like to pour tens of millions, inject, pour, dump, spray, tens of millions of tons of particulate matter into the stratosphere to create a layer around the world to, again, allegedly reflect the sun's rays. But what happens when you create these clouds, these permanent fog banks? They're claiming it's going to reflect the sun's rays. And technically it might, but it also traps heat to the earth, surface of the earth. And if people who live in California, for example, they might remember last year, we had 5 months of radiation fog. It wasn't like Chernobyl-like fog. It was a fog bank that sat on the grapevine of the 5 freeway, and it would not move. It was trapped. And what it did was it was so thick, it wouldn't move, and it radiated the heat that was supposed to be released at night from the surface of the earth. It's supposed to release back into the sky, but when you have fog, pollution, or this geoengineering that's happening, is we're creating a cloud cover around the earth, whether based from condensation trails made out of water or chemtrails. You're creating a permanent cloud layer around the earth that's trapping heat to the earth's surface. So it's actually the opposite, or it could be both. It could be that you're reflecting some of the sun's rays, but it's also that you're trapping heat to the earth, and now you're claiming there's a global warming problem. Well, you're spraying particulate matter into the troposphere and the stratosphere, creating these permanent systems that are trapping heat. So you can't have it both ways. You have to admit both of the impacts of your research and of your projects, and that's what we're identifying, and we're starting to go after these individual actors to stop with this experimentation on American citizens without our informed consent.
It's another situation of something being forced on you without consent. And of course, I believe a lot of us, from talking with doctors, when I was discussing this kind of thing with doctors in early part of 2020, that this is what's going to be coming. We're in this pandemic now. This was to be coming. You better be very careful what's coming. You better be careful what you take. I was told, get this person off. This person's crazy. And it turned out they were all right. Okay. And then we started saying, well, shedding, I think that's a real, that's conspiracy theories. And then we got medical doctors like Dr. Peter McCullough and others coming on saying, no, this is a real thing. It's amazing how many things end up impacting us who try hard to be wise and discerning. We say, I don't want that medication. I don't want to get that shot. And yet we have people that we come in contact with, they get shed on. We have now, we don't want to eat this, we don't eat that. We're trying to avoid these kind of oils that are bad for us in food, the processed foods. We're trying to live healthy. And yet then we have this lack of consent for me to have to be exposed to stuff that's being sprayed in the air and other places. And, it's really to a point where, and again, not to turn it into a plug, but this is why I'm constantly swishing with stuff like this, with got glutathione in it to detox my cells and to remove mercury and lead from my brain so I don't get Alzheimer's and dementia, according to some studies. Glutathione, of course, naturally occurring in your body, starts decreasing around the age of 20. But no wonder so many of us are doing this kind of thing, because we know we're coming in contact with stuff that we have not agreed to come in contact with. I did not consent to be sprayed with this stuff.
Well, I mean, it's actually, we're so lucky to have people such as yourself and this platform that is sharing this information, because it really isn't a lot of it. I mean, you and I and our circle of friends perhaps know this, but most Americans don't know that. Most Americans think that there is a law that requires them to get vaccinated. Let me just back this up. Not everybody knows what you're talking about. Our group may know what we're talking about. Excuse me. Oops, sorry. I don't know how that happened. Are you there still?
Yep, you're good.
Sorry.
Go the other way. There you go. You're good.
We might know that, but not everybody knows that. And so you're detoxing. That is a huge That is huge. That is such an advantage because what's happening to everybody else, to my mom friends who don't know when their child, like my son, for example, right now, we just got hammered in California with the sprays. He immediately went into respiratory arrest. So what did I start doing? I started treating breathing treatments. And he had a fever. Why? Because his body is overloaded and he's trying to detox. He's trying to get all of the, whatever they just dumped on us. I believe it's bacterial and or viral in addition to the chemicals. So I'm detoxing him, detox baths, breathing treatments, supplementing everything that I can to support his detoxification system and process. But other people are not doing that. They're running to the doctor saying, I have a fever and my runny nose and I have body aches. And they're saying, okay, well, let's prescribe you an antibiotic. And then you take the antibiotic and the antibiotic doesn't work. And by the way, you didn't take it the way it was supposed to. You didn't take it all the way. So now you have your body has you've just destroyed your gut or your child's gut. You have now, by the way, every time you take an antidepressant, I think it increases your risk of depression 10 to 20% every single time.
And it's destroying that good bacteria, as you just said. Your immune system resides in your gut. And you just destroyed the good, which is why I believe in antibiotics when you need them, but I only take them when I really need them.
Absolutely necessary. It increases your rate of depression and anxiety. And then on top of it, you don't take it the way you're supposed to. And then now you've created a super bug, right? Because now have the resistance, the antibiotic resistance, but not all the way. And now the next time you actually come in contact with a virus or a bacteria, whether you believe in those or not, then your body can't fight it the antibiotic is not going to work as well as it would last time. And so it's this vicious cycle where you continue to go to the doctor because you don't understand that you're being poisoned. You don't understand that you should be supporting your detoxification processes, not going to a doctor looking for a Band-Aid. You need to start, as you mentioned, detoxing, eating clean foods, drinking clean water, eating clean produce, and also if you eat meat, then to make sure that you're eating clean meat. But it's impossible to do that when your when your oxygen, when your air is poisoned, because your air not only fills your lungs and your body with these toxins and viruses and particulate matter and possibly nanobots. I'm just going to leave it right there. Actually, nanobot technology and graphene. Not only are you breathing that, but it drops onto the surface of the earth, and it gets into the soil, it gets into the plants, it gets into the animals that are eating the plants, it gets into the water. So when you're talking about these tests that are showing really high levels of all of these substances, it's because we are getting bombarded on so many layers, and all of those layers are piling up, and we're not detoxing. But to your point, that I'm not a medical expert. We need to be detoxing. We should not be relying on the pharmaceutical, medical, industrial complex, and we should be taking matters into our own hands, sourcing our food and emphasizing sleep, clean air, and supporting organizations such as the Geophyte, who are fighting to stop this mass poisoning, whether it's a mass poisoning, it is what it is, just like vaccines. It's just like pesticide control, pest control. They just put a different label. They just put a different label on it, and they're poisoning us, right? Mm-hmm. But they always try and frame it in a different light so that we think it's actually good for us, or good for our plants, or good for our health, and that we accept it. But we do not have to accept being poisoned. We have every right to know what we are consuming, what's being sprayed on us. And if people are poisoning us without our consent, or even with it, we will be suing them to stop them.
Mm-hmm. Good for you. I noticed in this Politico article here, you're quoted right in here. The group is preparing 2 lawsuits against private companies, according to Nicole Pearson, one of the 3 founders of the Geophyte. She declined to say which entities the group would target or what harms it plans to allege. So what kind of response are you getting? I mean, you live in a state, California, where I have to wonder what kind of response you're getting from people now that you've not only in California, but around the country. But what kind of response is this elicited? Are people coming after you? I mean, are you concerned about even being disbarred in a state like California?
I mean, the complaints the accusations are already coming, but I've already been dealing that with the last 5-6 years. So it's just par for the course. People have asked me, why are you fighting? You're going against the global cabal elite. I mean, this is not unique to the United States. To be completely candid with you, as I always am, and we always come into this conversation, this is not unique to California or Florida or Idaho or the United States. Truly, it is a small group of individuals at the very, very top of the food chain who are attempting to manipulate the global climate in order to induce mass floods, droughts, fires, to do what we've always talked about in the show. It's depopulation agenda. Whoever survives, it's going to be relegated to small plots of land. And then we will put them into 15-minute cities where if you come live in this 15-minute city, then we can guarantee you a certain number of hours of electricity and a certain number of gallons of water, and we can allocate to you a certain number of crickets, but only if you get the vaccines and you take the medicine that we told you, the ACIP and the CDC recommends to you, and that you were a good little citizen and you got, and your QR code is green because you need that QR code to get on the sub. Well, you're not going to be on the subway. You're going to be riding your bike. Right. You'll be riding a bike or walking in your 15-minute city. But in order for you to go to the grocery store or access your building or buy your whatever it is, the 3 things that they let you do, that is the global agenda. So I just want people to know, the response, that's the agenda. That's what's happening. It's the same playbook. I think they are getting very aggressive. 2030 is on the horizon. They blew it with COVID. They had a great opportunity and they blew it with COVID, and they're desperate to reach these goals, the goals that they have, and they've said out loud and hit that 2030 deadline. And so we're seeing it in the skies. We're seeing it in the data centers that are destroying, sucking up all the water, destroying communities, harming people and animals, killing the bees. That's another huge show that we could talk about. We're seeing it with the glyphosate, and we're seeing it with the weather warfare. I mean, those earthquakes, everything.
Are you familiar with this website?
Yeah, they're great. Jim Lee's great.
No, I've interviewed Jim several times, and I need to get him back on, but I've interviewed him several times. But he goes into the history of all of this geoengineering, weather modification, et cetera. I mean, it's crazy, all the newspapers he shows. View the news gallery.
It's all there.
And he shows you how many years back they were doing all of this. I don't know why that news gallery is not popping up, but there it is. There we go. He shows you all of these news clippings and what they were doing and how far back they were doing it. And you're like, oh my word, this is not conspiracy. This is highly documented. So I figured you knew who he was. By the way, we're in Tennessee. Minnesota has a lot of mosquitoes, right? 10,000 lakes and 10 million mosquitoes. That's very common for folks in Wisconsin, Minnesota, a lot of lakes, a lot of mosquitoes. Here in Tennessee, we don't have a lot of mosquitoes. And you can sit outside late into dusk, dark, and you're fine. Not this year. Not this year.
Oh, interesting. They released them on you.
They must
genetically
have.
modified mosquitoes. Yes. The ones that you can't hear.
Logan, can you hop on the microphone and verify what I'm telling you?
Yeah, they are rare, very bad this year.
But they're very rare. Prior to this summer, we didn't really have them, did we?
I never noticed them. I know some people complain about mosquitoes more than others. I never have really gotten bit by them.
No, we set out of the...
Do you notice? I can't. The ones that we have, and I know that we have them because my children are allergic, and so I can see on their bodies. I don't see them and I don't hear them because that one annoying mosquito that doesn't let you sleep when you're exhausted. We don't have that, at least where I live. We don't have that anymore. And yet I know we have the mosquitoes. So the mosquitoes are being modified. I mean, this is my opinion, but also this is supported by the literature and the information that they do release to us. They are being modified. They are being released. They're allegedly, I think they wanted to release I don't know how many million in Florida and California that they have been genetically modified. They're supposed to mate with the females and then make it so that they allegedly can't transmit disease, and that once they mate, they'll become sterile, something to that effect.
That's right.
Again, it's the same story. We're going to do something here that we're going to poison you under the guise of pest control, of agriculture, horticulture, vaccine, all the stuff. I can't even. It's so many. It's so many things. But that's what they're doing.
Was my screen on the screen there, Logan, when I was testing this?
No, mine was. I put up.
Oh, yours was. Okay. Well, I just put in and asked, how many mosquitoes have been released in Tennessee? And look what Yahoo just said. In Tennessee, over 1.5 million genetically modified mosquitoes have been released as part of a pilot program aimed at controlling mosquito populations and reducing the spread of diseases like Zika and dengue fever. Well, hello, what do you mean reduce mosquitoes? We didn't have mosquitoes of any consequence prior to you releasing the mosquitoes. That's what's so dumb. Now, I cannot speak for the rest of the state. I can only speak for myself here in the Mid-South. And my wife and I love to sit outside, particularly on the weekends when I'm not on the air, and play gin or just sit out there and read. And we can do that for hours. And the sun goes down and it finally cools off enough here in the Mid-South where it's 100 degrees, literally 98, 101, 68% humidity. And that's not with rain. That's 68% humidity because this is the Mid-South. And you finally go outside and you sit and now you're getting chewed on. And my wife and I have been complaining about it all summer because this is a new problem. And I said, they're releasing these stinking mosquitoes. There's no other explanation. But I had not taken time to look it up till now. And now Yahoo even admits it.
You have to go back and read it because the key word there is pilot program.
Yeah.
So this is what they're doing is research. They are claiming when you go back in time and you look at Detroit and you look at San Francisco when they did Operation Sea Spray and right now Stardust Solutions and what's going on in Colorado University where our client is a whistleblower talking about the destruction of historical weather data. That's one of our two major federal lawsuits is talking about weather, the manipulation and the destruction of historical weather data. When you look, CU, Colorado University, in conjunction with NOAA, the National Atmospheric and NOAA, I don't have enough time, is working with the federal government to conduct research regarding or surrounding climate change. So they frame it, they couch it as research. We're not doing this to you guys. We're not operating. We're not running a program. We're just doing research as if that exempts them from liability. Again, as we saw during COVID, where we were also, or many Americans, millions of Americans were forced into the clinical trials of this never before used mRNA technology, genetic gene modifying bioweapon technology, is that you were forced into the clinical trials of this experimental new drug, this therapeutic, this bioweapon, not a vaccine. And a lot of people were forced against the Nuremberg Code, against CFR rules, that's the federal rules of regulations, the federal code, against your constitutional rights. You were forced into clinical trials as human beings without informed consent. A lot of people did it unwillingly. They were forced under duress. They were coerced at the risk of losing their jobs, their tenure, their pensions, or their homes. So this is the same thing. So I don't know why they think that, and I sued and I won on those lawsuits. Those individuals, those agencies, those entities that forced you guys to become human guinea pigs, they're losing in the court of law. So I don't know why they think calling this a research project in Colorado, doing research and weather modification and climate change and geoengineering, or Stardust wanting to do just a 10 million ton, tens of millions of tons experiment in our stratosphere is just research. Well, guess what? I do not consent to your research. Your research is dumb. Your research could kill me. Your research is actually harming the earth and our climate. It's actually causing holes in the ozone layer, and we do not consent. So we are refusing to be, which is within all of our constitutional, statutory, and just basic human rights not to be experimented on. So that's what Facts, Law, Truth, Justice is about. That's what the geo fight is about. We're just specifically focused on the fight that's in the skies. And I hope that people join us and they support us because I will be candid on the show. We have major lawsuits that we want to file across the country. And we have already done this. We did this during COVID and we won, but we didn't win as fast as we could have because we didn't have the funds. I do not have the funds to go against NOAA or the Department of War or even Stardust Solutions that has $75 million and is growing. We don't have the funds to go up against these megaliths. We don't have them. And the reason that we lose, we've talked about it all the time, is because we're always scrapping. We're always scrounging for scraps. And we're up against these huge organizations with billions and billions of dollars in their litigation coffers. So we are asking for donations so that we can hire the experts, file the lawsuits, get the take the depositions, get the transcripts, file the paperwork, serve people, get the documents. do all of the things that we need. Lawsuits take hundreds of thousands of dollars when you go against the government. It can reach into the millions of dollars. And if we want to win, we want to go in hard and fast and win and stop what's happening. We do need to raise funds. And I cannot think of anything more important than clean air, oxygen. I can't think of anything more important. So that's what we're working on right now. And we ask for everybody to go to thegeofight.com, join our coalition, sign up for our newsletter, and please, please, please donate. If it can just, what does your oxygen worth to you, your children, your clean air, clean water, clean food? What is it worth? Because it doesn't matter. It does not matter how much you pay. If you get the organic food, if you get the organic farm raised or farm free range, it doesn't matter if that cow has been breathing dirty air and drinking dirty water and eating dirty, modified, chemically laden food, water, all of that. Nothing matters. You can't live on a farm and grow your own food if the air and the oxygen and the water and the soil that it's growing on is contaminated. So that's the big fight. Go to thegeofight.com, join us and support us, please.
Absolutely. One thing while you were talking, I asked, how many mosquitoes have been released in Memphis, Tennessee? Now, they were saying 1.5 million, but I thought that doesn't seem like a lot for the whole state.
No.
But I think what they meant was 1.5 million per region or however they're doing it. So I drilled down more and said, okay, how many have been released in Memphis? Now they're telling me in Memphis, Tennessee, 1.5 million mosquitoes have been released as part of a controlled program. Okay. That's just in Memphis area, 1.5 million. So that's a lot of mosquitoes.
It's a lot of mosquitoes. I'll get you more info on that. We do not consent. And I don't care where you live. I don't care where you are on the political spectrum. I don't care about anything. Every one of us has the right not to be poisoned. In every single state in the United States, there is a law, a penal code section, a criminal law section that says, a criminal law that says you cannot be poisoned. And people who poison you have to go to jail. So that's the baseline. And then if you want to pretend it's research, then there are rules that come along with research. And if you want to pretend it's for military, then there are rules that come with the military operations as well. And the law is on your side. I've been saying that to you for 6 years. The law is on our side. We are sovereign citizens. We are human beings. We have basic human rights. In this country, we have fundamental constitutionally protected rights. Everybody needs to know that you have the right to say no. You have the right to be left alone. The government cannot tell you what to do with your body. They cannot tell you what to do with your children's body. There's no law that says you need a doctor. No law that says you need to have a baby in a hospital. No law that says you need to go to a pediatrician appointment or even have a pediatrician. No law that says you have to get vaccinated. No one has to get vaccinated at all. I don't care if you live in California or you live in Florida. You do not have to get vaccinated. Your children do not have to get vaccinated. Okay, if you want to go to a traditional public school or private school if you're in California, there are certain requirements, but you have options and you have the right to say no.
Absolutely. Here it is. Got to get the word "the" in it. Thegeofight.com.
It's the only one.
Geofight.com. You guys, the only ones doing this. Come back with an update. And if you find anything out about what they're dumping on us here in Memphis, please let us know.
I will. That'll be the next fight.
Please let me know. Nicole Pearson checking in tonight, thegeofight.com and Truth, Facts, Law, Justice as well. Do I get all that right? Did I get that right? Truth, Law,
No,
Facts?
but next, I'll come back until you get it right.
What is it? Facts, Law, Truth, Justice? Okay, factslawtruthjustice.com, factslawtruthjustice.com, and thegeofight.com. Thank you, Nicole.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, that's very interesting, isn't it? All right, we're going to be right back. Let's talk more about the bond market, the dollar, where it's all going. We've crossed $40 trillion in debt, and we got a real problem here. I talked about it in my Worldview Report commentary tonight. I want to visit with Mike Weiner. I asked him this morning, I said, I need you back on because this story's everywhere about the dollar, the bond market, and the Fed. They're really caught between a rock and a hard place. What are they going to do? I think they're going to have to choose inflation. That means everything's going to go up. And Iran, this big fight in Iran is causing diesel prices to go up. Even though we're a big exporter, we got everything we need. Our oil is set on the price of the world market as well. And so this is impacting farmers and combines and trucks and Every one of us is going to feel this at the dinner table, the grocery store, and in other parts of our life. But we got to get to understand what's going on. What are the signals from this bond market? We'll be right back. Don't go away.
No signal, no service, no way to reach the people you love. When disaster strikes, hurricanes, wildfires, grid failures, civil unrest, the first thing to go is communication. Cell towers fail, networks crash, and suddenly, you're cut off. Not anymore. Worldview Talk brings you military-grade satellite phones that work anywhere on Earth. Mountaintops, deep wilderness, disaster zones, no cell tower required. When everyone else goes silent, you stay connected. And that's just the beginning. At worldviewtalk.com, you'll find everything you need to protect what matters most. Solar generators, silent, clean power when the grid goes down, bulletproof backpacks, everyday protection for your kids, your commute, your peace of mind. Faraday bags shield your devices from EMPs, hackers, and tracking. This isn't paranoia, it's preparation. And in today's world, it's smart. Visit worldviewtalk.com. That's worldviewtalk.com. Don't wait until the lights go out. Worldview Talk. Stay connected, stay protected, stay ready.
Joining me now is Michael Weiner. All right, Michael, welcome back. Gold is spiking again. It has something to do with the bond market, the dollar. What's going on, Michael?
We warned about the situation with the BRICS nations, and quite honestly, what they announced, and I sent you a copy of the article on that came out last night. But China is openly now. Before it was all clandestinely, but now the BRICS, and for the people who don't understand what BRICS are, it's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But there's 47 or 50 other nations that are directly involved, and 100 other nations that are involved. And to give an education quickly and concisely, after World War II, none of the countries in Europe had any currencies. It was a disaster. So they created a treaty, the United States and England, called the Bretton Woods Act. And in that Bretton Woods Treaty, which was a guy named Bretton and a guy named Woods from the United States, created a treaty where the United States created and England created the World Bank. The IMF was a monetary arm through the World Bank, and the United States would bankroll with all the currencies of these countries, France, Austria, Belgium, all these countries that were run by the Nazis were now going to have currency again, and the strength of their currency would be backed by the U.S. dollar. As a matter of fact, in the treaty, the United States claimed that it would never go off the gold standard. Go figure, huh? Theoretically, you could breach it for that. However, we've been the world reserve currency, which means that countries, when they adjudicate their money, when they deal with their currencies between each other, they come back to the U.S. dollar as the main means of adjudication, of moving money. China is saying, well, wait a minute, we got a better idea. Our group, our World Bank, which is called the BRICS, the SWIFT system is their payment system like the IMF, is better, cheaper, more cost-effective, and more literally streamlined. And they have openly come out now saying that they are moving forward with it aggressively, that they believe they can replace the world reserve status of the U.S. dollar, which would have fundamentally huge effects on our strength as a nation, geopolitically, financially, and legitimately. It's not a game. It's very, very, very serious. And we are literally under attack. And China's not backing off. Now, the United States just asked China today, Basant did, hey, look, we're going after Iran. The way we want to settle this is totally break their back financially, and we want your support to join into us. And what did China do today? China told them to kick rocks. We're not doing it. Figure out another way to solve your problem. Well, pardon me, there is no other way. We have to go it alone. So our partners that have been working with us are very concerned that the United States will not have the financial strength that it once had with its currency and looking to possibly sort of backdoor their bet and pad their items with a membership with the BRICS. They have no guarantee they have to stay with the World Reserve Bank situation. They can go elsewhere. The ramifications to us on our dollar, which is already under attack, as well as our finances in disarray. And I know Trump gets on there and says everything's great. We've got to be realistic. We are $40 trillion in debt. I'm not blaming Trump for all of this problem. This goes back 55 years to when we went off the gold standard and this mess first started. And how, as I said before previously, how right were these guys with the white wigs back in the 1780s and 80s who came up and said, hey, wait a minute, we don't want them spending more money than they had gold in the bank. And we know the ramifications, what's gone on. Well, how is this going to affect all us? That's the big picture. What is the big oil stick that they have to stick in the engine and pull out again to find money? Well, we are the stick. We are the people that constantly keep paying for their stupidity. We are. And people don't get it. When they hear people say, well, they've lost $26 billion in the state of South Dakota on fraud, hypothetically, people don't get it. They don't get that that money ultimately came out of their pocket because they don't feel it directly. It's indirectly, and all of your costs, all of your inflation, all of your dollar spending, it just trickles down. Well, now with this situation with the BRICS, we sure as heck, they caught us at a weak moment. They caught us simultaneously when they announced that we're 40 trillion with a T in debt. How do we deal with that debt? Does anybody have an idea? I mean, anybody have pencil or paper? How do we deal with it? Well, normally when we're on debt, we can't call one of these debt companies to call up and help us get rid of our credit card debt. We don't do that. We call a duck a dog. What we do is we constantly keep sidestepping the problem. And what Trump is saying, okay, I'll solve it. We told you this over a year ago. In July of 2025, they are going to create digital currencies and multiple levels between stable coins, the coin-based reward banking, between the situation of the commercial digital banking, and between the situation of the cryptocurrencies where they can juggle the books, rephrase the money, and try to say to John Jones, hey, Mr. Jones, here's all your new money. But if you figure it out, you're probably going to be down 35, 40%.
Okay, wait a minute. Whoa, stop right there. Down 35, 40% when they reset the whole system? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. In order to get rid of that debt, to make it disappear, they've got to get rid of $40 trillion. And that's hard dollars.
And so what are you saying? They're going to debase the currency to make paying the debt back easier?
Of course. Absolutely.
I want to really understand what he just said. They're going to deliberately debase the currency to make paying the debt back easier.
Correct. And they're going to tell you that they're doing it with digital dollars and you're going to get all this digital currency. But until you figure out what the heck went on, you really don't have what you once started with. We are going to pay what they're saying for, and Trump said it. I made a statement on the show 6 weeks ago when Trump went on a Monday, was asked about the debt back then 6 to 7 weeks ago, and he said, we will get rid of the debt through digital. Well, how do you do that? You got to create a new currency. Does that mean the new currency is going to be worth the same amount of money? Of course not. You can't get rid of the debt that way. You've got to rephrase and reconstruct it. And by the time you figure out what has happened, you will have less money. We will pay for the squandering of all the money that has gone on.
Of course, they always shove it onto the little guys, right? Right?
Exactly.
Every time.
For the good of the nation, for the good of the nation, that's what we've heard. We talked about that when we talked about the stock brokerage firms and what they did as far as it goes with restructuring things during the 2008 era. And it was always for the good of the company. And as long as we exist, it'll be great for the clients. That's baloney. Shearson did that in the movie Margin Call. Big Short, we talked about that, Brandon, same thing. Nobody was ever concerned about the people. And the reality is that we're at the end of the road right here. The rubber's hitting the road right here, and the only solution they have is John Jones and John Smith and Mary Jones are going to sit back and eat this. You're not going to know what's going to happen. It's just like I've said it before in 33 and 71. It will happen. You will have no control on it. There's nothing you can do. Don't bother calling your congressman. It's too late. What you can do is properly balance your portfolio. That's where the gold comes in.
Yeah, look at this real quick before you go there. Look at this. BRICS alternatives to dollar, no longer a fantasy. Okay?
Correct.
So there is, if they destroy the dollar as the world reserve currency, this is part of the economic war. And by the way, if you go to the website where Reuters tracks all of their stories on BRICS, here it is. Iran to join BRICS Development Bank soon. So all of this is a financial war, okay? Americans have no idea that this financial war has been going on for a long time. This is as much a financial war as it is a kinetic war. In fact, the kinetic war is the foundation of the financial war, because what Iran is doing is choking that area for those fuels, that oil to come through, which is disrupting the world market, which sets our price higher because, again, even though we produce our own oil here, it all gets set on the global market by the same disruption. So they are creating a problem deliberately, economically, using the kinetic and threats of more kinetic as a weapon of the economic war. But this economic war with BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, all those that have joined, including Iran, is about destroying us here at home and worldwide with the end of the U.S. petrodollar pegging the price of oil and and the world's reserve currency. That's what this is about. The average American on the street knows nothing about what I'm saying. The people watch this broadcast do. They're smart people, but the average American has no idea how vulnerable they are, Michael.
No. And they don't want to know. I mean, people just put their head in the sand about it most of the time, or they go to their financial planner. I had one guy went to their financial planner, and look, there's some really good financial people out there to work with you. We don't tell you to put all your money in with Swiss America, but you've got to remember one thing I keep saying, that this is your money. And whomever you're dealing with, man or woman, they should be brutally aware of that factor and be willing to understand. Look, that you, most cases, made more money than they did, and so you should be smart enough to be able to be the captain of your own ship. Mm-hmm. The reality is the reason why you balance your portfolio with gold is the same reason why all these central banks, why you say, why are all these countries, central banks are like the Federal Reserve of all these countries, and they're buying gold like crazy. Why are they buying gold like crazy? Because they're scared to death. For years, they've been involved with the U.S. dollar. They're seeing this war. They don't want to get whiplashed, and they don't want to get slammed, so they're buying gold. And then what is China and the BRICS nations doing? They want to take control. They want to show strength. They're buying gold for their banks and central banks. So gold is no longer a commodity. It's a financial instrument, and it'll be very aggressive. And my concern, quite honestly, with all of this going on, look what's going on right now, Brandon. Look what is going on. We've got September 30th. I'm going to tell you people again, that's the year end for the United States government. We start a new financial year, which means we need to finance all that debt. And, out of sight, out of mind. I guess if it doesn't bother you for cooking your hot dogs tonight, it's not a big deal, or your steak or your hamburgers or whatever. Doesn't matter as long as it's not there. Ultimately, it will be there. That's why they're concerned about inflation. They're literally, when they're connecting in the bond market's going up, and they can't stop it, because in order to stop it, they got to strengthen the dollar, and they can't strengthen the dollar because it's on a slide. So what did Basant and his boys said? The Fed and the Treasury is going to buy our own bonds. So when they say the Fed or the Treasury, it's not them, it's you and I. We're buying it. We're buying our debt. Okay? So they made the debt, and now they're sticking it to us and creating more debt for us. And Sooner or later, the only financial responsibility in this country is to sit back and actually cut back, in my opinion, 90% of foreign aid. How are we lending money out to countries that we borrow? How does that make sense? Think about that as a common person. You owe $10,000 on a credit card, but meanwhile you give out $10,000 as a gift to somebody elsewhere. Does that make sense? That's exactly what we're doing. And that should be cut. A lot of these financial programs that we offer for people should be cut dramatically because we don't have the money. But nobody wants to admit that because it's not electable. Somebody would say, well, why aren't they fine? Because it's not electable. People don't want to cut back those programs. They want to blame somebody else for getting rid of it. Sooner or later, the programs will disappear on their own. But ultimately, the target will be your money, and the biggest second low-hanging fruit is your retirement dollars. We've already seen Trump attack your retirement dollars. These retirement accounts now are being allowed, Brandon. We did a show regarding the government now allowing digitals and cryptos into the financial world of your retirement plans. What is that saying? For taking away reality and replacing it with fantasy. That's why we talk about protecting your retirement plans so definitely, because that is 40 to 60 trillion dollars of money, and that's another bastion and a big vat of cash that they want to get their hands on.
Well, let's talk about this. We've crossed now 40 trillion in the on-record debt. And, as I said in my worldview report tonight, we crossed 38 trillion back in October of 2025. 38 trillion in October of 2025. Then we went to 39 trillion in March of this year. Now we're at 40 trillion here in August. So this is $1 trillion of new debt in under 5 months. Now, what we're being told is that the debt has more than doubled since January of 2017. And now we're also being told that the, the Congressional Budget Office is projecting that somewhere around 2036, we're going to be somewhere about 56 and $64 trillion. All right. So they have no choice but to print money. They have no choice. And I don't care what they call it. It's quantitative easing, whatever name they want to give to it. I don't care. But they have no choice to do this. And I don't understand why it is. Well, I do understand, because most Americans are entertaining themselves to death. They're not paying attention, but they have no idea how much purchasing power their dollar has lost. They have no idea how much purchasing power their dollar is going to lose. And they have no idea how much their wealth is being eaten away at, that the salary they make is becoming smaller and smaller, that the rate of inflation is not, I don't care what the CPI says, Consumer Price Index, the rate of inflation is not keeping up with their wages. We now see that it is cheaper, way cheaper to rent a home than it is to buy a home. I was looking at reports on that today. It is a lot cheaper to rent a home than buy a home. And which is why many people are saying, I'm just not going to do that. Then we add in, as I said tonight, not only is the government trying to get Americans to come in and buy bonds, but then the artificial intelligence build out. These corporations are paying returns as they're trying to borrow money. They're selling bonds, big tech companies are, to construct these AI infrastructures. So now you have the same group of people being lobbied by the government and by big companies as to where to put their money. And yet the problem is our government is already in debt, as I said tonight in our Worldview Report, for what's been done in the past. These big, huge AI companies are going into debt for what is to be in the future. So when you have this corporate debt and then you have this government debt colliding, is this not a prescription for a real problem in this country?
Of course. That's exactly what I just said. And when you're sitting back and you're talking about also putting that aside with the year end, we have to sit back and also come up with a budget, which why can't we come up with a budget? It's all political. You send these idiots to Congress, and when they sit down, they sit there like a bunch of nincompoops. If I was the Republicans right now, I would just continually keep playing that one statement Trump said at the State of the Union. And he said, "If you support America, please stand up." And all the Democrats are sitting. That's a statement for any voter. I mean, sometimes we all pinch ourselves how stupid people can be, how some idiot could vote for some ridiculous Muslim heretic just because he's saying he's a nice guy right now when he hung out with every lunatic on the planet out there. This type of an entity right now and what we're heading into, the only solution, as they claim, is to sit back and revalue our economy. They will revalue, you will lose, and if you do not, and they will attack your retirement plans. It will be happening. There's no way around it. They cannot not do it. They cannot not do it. The problem is when they pay off all those credit cards and they change all of our money and restructure everything we have, you would think they start at zero, and guess what? They'll be in debt all over again because they haven't learned a darn thing. They haven't learned to stop giving money to countries. We should not have any foreign aid other than peanuts because we can't afford it. We can't afford all this stuff we are doing. We individually know what we can afford and can't afford. Why can't our own government do that? Because it's all called elections. So they are more concerned about their election than they are about financial issues. Right now, this is about on the table. The stock market is overinflated. It's going to take a restructuring. And they've been saying it on an ongoing basis, the people who are economists all day long. And I'm not talking the people who play for the audience, but the people who are smart enough saying you can't have debt, you can't do all this and not ultimately pay the piper. And if you don't think a crashing dollar has an effect on a corporate balance sheet, you're crazy. Because corporations aren't necessarily sitting with billions in cash. They might be sitting with billions in assets that they have to liquidate to be able to get cash. So that conversion hurts them. So my solution right now is take stock of where you're at. If you don't want to, don't like Swiss America, go wherever you want. It's up to you. But our position is, and we've been around 44 years, if you're going to deal with us, we're going to be very conscious of where you're at financially and try to blend a portfolio, not overwhelm it, blend it properly to protect you. Because this is not going to be a do-over, Brandon, when this happens. It's not going to be a do-over to us. They will look at the currencies. They will look. The first thing they'll do with your retirement plan, as I've said before, is stop your ability to transfer. They can do that tomorrow.
Yep.
If they do that, you can't do a thing. Nothing. So that's why Reagan created gold IRAs. He wanted people to have the capability of having an asset that the government did not have direct, and that's what I'm saying again, direct access to. Any paper asset, they do. The gold IRA, they don't. There's also the same thing as private holdings. When you have gold privately and you own it privately under the law, you own something that is without direct access of the government legally. That's what I'm talking about.
And by the way, gold went up, what, almost $90, $86 today?
I wonder who was right.
Yeah, you said it was going to happen. We're up over $4,600.
I said by mid-September, $5,000 gold again. Doesn't seem so far away, does it?
No. So you can. What's the old saying? Buy low, sell high. So if people want to jump in, what you're saying is they might want to consider doing it now because you think the correction is over. That correction that we were talking about coming, it's over, and now it's on. So this is it, right?
Absolutely. I think if you can buy gold below $5,000 an ounce, you're lucky right now. And if you don't take advantage of it, don't worry about it. Don't ever look at the price. Anybody I deal with, I don't sell prices. I sell a plan and a strategy. And then a lot of people see that work out well all the time. Gold, I always used to say, buy, sell, who could tell? It doesn't really matter. What matters is the structure of the plan. ultimately gold over a period of time outperforms anything. I've seen it go up. When I bought my first gold coin, it was 42.50. Where's gold right now? It's over 110 times more in value. 110. What in your lifetime has gone up 110 times in value? Help me out. I'd like to understand that.
Yeah, well, this situation in America, globally, Iran, energy prices, inflation, 40 trillion debt and growing. These are many things that are converging at the same time. And all I can say is there's no desire in Washington, there hasn't been for decades, to get this under control. It's like going over a barrel in Niagara Falls. At some point, you've passed the point of no return. We're going over the falls. And that's where we're at now.
We already have gone. We're falling right now. We're over the wall. We're over that already. We're on our way down into the water. The reality is you have time to spend to restructure yourself adequately. We are not an enemy to you. If you have a financial planner, look at my son is a senior VP at Merrill Lynch. I have nothing against good people that are good financial minds to work with other parts of your portfolio. What I am concerned about right now is understanding that you need a financial life jacket, be it within your IRA, be it within personal or both. And there's a window of opportunity. You can pay more and get less, or not. Sooner or later, as long as you can do that, you'll be fine. Get something going. But if you fail to get something going, I just really believe not having gold within your portfolio is financially irresponsible. And for farmers, and I talked to a client today, a gentleman today, we were talking about farmers, and do I think it's good for them to own gold? Well, let me try to tell you something. Look what happened in 1933 in Texas. Look what happened in the farmland. Farmers and ranchers lost property in the 1930s when Roosevelt devalued and debased the currency, not because they had mortgages. They didn't. They didn't have the money to pay the cost of carry, and Rockefeller, who started Standard Oil then, stole all the oil land for nothing. And that's what will happen to people again if they don't properly balance that part of their portfolio. For those people who have farmers are probably the best people and ranchers to own gold because they own a tangible asset. It should be backed by a tangible asset, not paper. Don't be foolish enough to think that, because that is not going to work. History has already proved it. But right now, again, it's 11 hours and 59 minutes, and we warned about this BRICS things, Brandon. A year ago, we talked about it. We said this was going to happen, and what did the BRICS nations do? The same day that we hit a $40 trillion high, they attack us with the BRICS and say they're coming for us. And it's sort of a real good whammy on us when we're down. And then we got, Passat, which this whole situation, I'm not a militarist as far as what they should do, but to me, I believe in finishing things. So right now, the game plan in Iran is more conversation.
Yeah, I don't know that they can finish it, to be honest with you. Israel might be able to, but the U.S., I don't think we got what we need munitions-wise, etc. Also, with Annie Cyrus today, we were talking about, go back and look at the Iran-Iraq war of the 80s, and she said, I asked her about, didn't they throw a bunch of young people to that war, like minors? And I said about 1 million. She said some numbers are 2 million. And they're doing that again. They're making the dads go to war. And if you don't go, we'll send your young children. And so they are still recruiting and forcing young children so that our soldiers, if they ever put boots on the ground, would have to have the moral dilemma of shooting a 9, 10, 11-year-old child. And again, many of these people don't want to be out there fighting. They're Persians. They hate this regime, but their families are being threatened. This is far more complicated than Donald Trump even understands. So, by the way, I asked our Worldviewpedia, your research assistant that we have over here, Worldviewpedia, if you're a member of the Vault, what year did Brandon start talking about the BRICS? Brandon House stated that he began warning about the BRICS banking system as far back as May of 2010. And it goes into the citations and whatnot. And so, yeah, we've been talking about this on radio. On radio, we started back in May of 2010 about the BRICS.
Right.
Here we are.
Yep. here we are, and right now, it's hard. People, pay attention, and then they hurry up and wait, and you'll get somebody, and we'll talk about it, and then they listen to their, I guess, whoever, and says, don't protect yourself. If you feel comfortable with all this that's going on, I wish you Godspeed, good luck, God bless, take care. But if you're smart, you'll do what other people do and other nations are doing, and you shore up and build a barrier for yourself. You protect your home, you insure your cars, you insure your life, you insure just about everything you can around you. Why don't you insure your net worth? That's what supports it all, for goodness sakes. That's the bottom line. And right now, it's not getting better. We keep moving forward, and everything we predict keeps moving forward exactly the way we talk about it.
So again, I want to just tell people you need to be thinking about your IRA. I don't give financial advice, I give financial opinion, but you need to be thinking about the fact, can I take a 30-40% hit with this dollar debasement and this reset that they've been telling you is coming? Can you take a 30, 40, 50% hit, or are you too late in life that would mean something very catastrophic for you? If that's the case, you might want to do your own homework and due diligence, which means you probably want to get a free packet of information from Michael Weiner here at worldviewgold.com, worldviewgold.com, or 1-877-864-1072, 1-877-864-1072, and talk to him about taking advantage of what Ronald Reagan started, the gold IRA. As I understand it, the gold goes into a vault with your name. It's your gold. It's in a vault. And if you want to pay the taxes and start taking the gold physically or sell some of it and get a check, you can do that. But you're at least in a hedge against inflation and dollar debasement. Do I have all that correct?
Correct. And the reality is why are countries doing it and you're not? Why are countries doing it? And they're not buying stocks, ladies and gentlemen. They're not buying our debt. You are. So you better protect yourself, because you're getting in debt more and you don't want to understand it. You just think it's just a numbers game. It's just something that appears up there, yet it doesn't. It's really, really significant. And I keep saying to people all the time, picture yourself August 14th, 1971, at your neighborhood bank with $100,000 in a briefcase, and you got that says right on your money in those days, pay the bearer. So any FDIC bank had to give you $100,000 in gold and silver. You turn to the teller and say, I don't want it today. I'll come back tomorrow. I don't want to carry that home right now. You come back the next day, the night after Nixon announced the going off the gold standard. You know what they give you? Nothing. You got nothing. So if you don't get that, the drama in that, you follow suit to the beginnings of these 50-year politicians, Pelosi, Biden, McConnell. These people are a product of a unvettered financial system where they had the ability to write checks for a park in their name, or a bathrooms areas in a park, or giving out something to a school recklessly. They had all that money because nobody was paying attention to how much money backed it. Nobody.
Yep. All right, worldviewgold.com, worldviewgold.com, or 1-877-864-1072. You're writing a ton of IRAs, by the way, aren't you?
Yeah. We're really busy. We're trying. We try very hard. We take a lot of time with a lot of people. The only frustrating thing sometimes is I really like to talk to both the husband and wife and go over the whole thing. A lot of times the people don't get together on it, and I respect that. Listen, if you got to agree to disagree. My goal is not to create friction. My goal is to sit back and cohesively structure a balanced portfolio. If that doesn't make sense to what I just said to you, I wish you the best.
Yeah, indeed. All right, we don't give financial advice. I don't. I give financial opinion. My opinion is you should do your own homework. They've been a sponsor since, for 18 years. I've been working with Swiss America. They've been around for 44 years, never missed a buyback. They do not sell gold. They do not have in their vault. Is that a true statement?
That is absolutely correct. Everything is shipped from here. We don't drop ship a thing. Everything comes.
1-877-864-1072 or worldviewgold.com. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. Good night, Dolly. Enjoy the weekend.
She's already asleep, curled up on her bed, by the way. All right, guys, that's our broadcast for tonight. As always, thank you for tuning in and supporting the broadcast at worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. That was a pretty good program. I actually think it was more than pretty good. I think it was pretty awesome. All right, guys, I hope you have a great weekend. I'm going to continue working on my next book now that Revelation Commentary 1, 2, and 3 are done. And I'm working on biblically refuting the heresy of Calvinism. And by the way, did you get your brand new Worldview Tube mug? Maybe Logan, roll that spot as we go out. Show them this beautiful brand new mug. We only got 400 of them. They're handmade. Even the medallion is handmade. When they're gone, they're gone. And it takes about 6 months to get them back in because that company's very popular. So get the Worldview mug at worldviewstore.com. Take care. May God save America. Tonight on the Worldview Report, an Axios exclusive reveals that when President Trump asked Benjamin Netanyahu in the Oval Office how he was doing in the polls ahead of Israel's October 27th election, Netanyahu paused. One of his aides lied, said he was winning, and Trump has still not given him the endorsement that Netanyahu was counting on. Kushner and Netanyahu clashed directly in Monday's meeting over Israel's special mission to hunt down and kill every October 7th terrorist, with Kushner insisting strikes be limited to imminent threats only, and Netanyahu refusing. President Trump posted on Truth Social that there are no talks planned with Iran and none are scheduled. Iran's top negotiator says the Strait of Hormuz stays shut until all memorandum of understanding conditions are met, and a ship is struck by an unknown projectile while transiting the strait. President Trump threatens to bomb Oman. In markets, they respond with oil spiking and borrowing costs hitting multiple decade highs. The ACLU files a 314-page petition asking the U.S. Supreme Court to strike down the new Texas law requiring the Ten Commandments to be displayed in every public schoolroom. And Democratic Socialist Angie Nixon, a DSA member who recently joined the organization, upsets Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vidman in Florida's Democratic Senate primary by 16 points, despite being outspent 16-1. And in tonight's commentary, as I was watching at 8:30 this morning, I saw a financial event hit that very few people in the conservative media are talking about. Deutsche Bank FX researcher George Servalas. He's warning that conditions have not looked like this since 2007. Kevin Warsh and the Fed, they are at maximum size with nowhere to go. I'll explain what technology giants losing liquidity means for the paychecks of the ordinary Americans watching this broadcast tonight. All that and more as the Worldview Report begins right now.
This is Worldview Report with host Brandon House. Whether it is news from the nation's capital or your state capital, from the classroom to the boardroom, from national security to national and local news that impacts you and your family, Worldview Report is your trusted source for vital and uncensored news. And now, here is Brandon House.
Good evening and welcome to the Worldview Report. We begin tonight with a politically explosive Axios exclusive by Barak Ravid that could reshape the Israeli election scheduled for October 27th. When Benjamin Netanyahu met President Trump in the Oval Office 2 weeks ago, President Trump reportedly asked him directly how he was doing in the polls. Netanyahu is said to have paused. Then one of his advisors stepped in. Mr. President, he is winning, the aide reportedly said. And again, that's according to a U.S. official familiar with the exchange. Netanyahu is not winning. His governing coalition is currently projected at between 48 and 49 Knesset seats, well below the 61 seats needed to form a majority government. And President Trump has not given him the endorsement he has been hoping for, despite being asked about it repeatedly by reporters. Trump told Fox News he may endorse someone, but added that it is most appropriate for me to stay out of Israeli elections, a phrase that itself signals which way the wind is blowing. The standard Trump endorsement formula is complete and total endorsement by absolute backing, and that did not appear. Axios reports that Netanyahu's political opponents, they have been working through back channels to persuade Trump allies and donors to keep the American president neutral. The opposition figures include former Prime Ministers Bennett and Lapid and former IDF chief Issaquah, all of whom have reached out to Trump associates, urging him not to back Netanyahu. President Trump has publicly told Netanyahu not to launch further strikes in Lebanon and has signaled repeatedly that Washington and Jerusalem do not see eye to eye on every issue. Whether President Trump eventually steps in with a formal endorsement could become the defining external factor in an Israeli election that's already closer than Netanyahu's team is letting on. Our next story comes from World Israel News, and it reveals the central point of contention in Jared Kushner's Monday meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu that reportedly produced no agreement and was followed almost immediately by a major Israeli airstrike. Israel has established a special mission to hunt down and kill every single Palestinian terrorist involved in the October 7th, 2023 massacre. That mission has been generating strikes against Hamas operatives across Gaza on a regular basis. The main dispute in Monday's Kushner-Netanyahu meeting was over whether those strikes should continue. Kushner told Netanyahu that the U.S. would not oppose Israeli strikes against individuals who pose a genuine, imminent threat to Israeli forces. But he told Netanyahu the imminent threat standard should not be broadly interpreted. That's according to an official present at the meeting. Netanyahu's position was clear and unwavering. The strikes against October 7th participants will continue regardless. No agreement reportedly was reached. Hours after Kushner left Israel, the IDF carried out one of its deadliest strikes in months, targeting what it described as a gathering of senior Hamas operatives at a Gaza cafe. 4 Hamas fighters, the same elite force that led the October 7th ground assault, were killed. So were 2 others, including a child. Following day, the IDF struck a Hamas police station, killing 9 officers, including a 13-year-old girl. The Board of Peace has remained silent on both strikes. Netanyahu's position that every October 7th participant will be killed if maintained and executed consistently, well, it could go against the terms of Trump's 20-point Gaza plan, which Netanyahu accepted last September and which does not explicitly carve out exceptions for pre-October 7th targeted killings. Our next story comes from Reuters. The 60-day Memorandum of Understanding, it expired on Monday, and the ceasefire along with it. A senior Iranian official told Reuters that Iran was moving to a fully offensive military posture. And on Tuesday, Trump posted on Truth Social that there are no talks or conversations going on, nor are they scheduled with the Islamic Republic of Iran. A flat reversal of what he had been saying just days earlier. Iran's top negotiator, Mohammad Ghalibaf, he said in state media that the Strait of Hormuz would remain shut until the U.S. met the conditions of the June 17th Memorandum of Understanding, including lifting all oil sanctions, ending the naval blockade, and releasing frozen assets. The United Kingdom's maritime trade operations confirmed that a vessel was struck by an unknown projectile while transiting the strait outbound on Tuesday. causing engine room damage and a crew casualty. President Trump simultaneously claimed on Truth Social that the strait is open and operating. Preliminary shipping data, it showed single-digit crossings on Monday. Trump also told a Fox News reporter that if Oman gets in the way of U.S. efforts in the strait, well, we'll bomb the blank out of them. A threat that rattled one of the few remaining neutral mediators in the region. He also posted a Truth Social image showing the Strait of Hormuz labeled new U.S. territory, building on his threat from the previous week to declare the strait an American territory after Iran's surrender. The markets responded immediately. Oil prices spiked. Stocks, they sagged. And borrowing costs for major economies, including the United States, hit what Reuters described as a multi-decade high. Concerns about this long-term inflationary and the fiscal impact of the crisis, well, it's now showing up in bond yields, credit spreads, and consumer confidence all at the same time. We'll be right back after this short break. Friends, this is Brandon House. For more than a year now, I've been teaching through the book of Revelation, and the response from you has been overwhelming. You've asked me again and again, when are you going to put this study in print? We want to mark it up. We want to share it with our families. Well, it's here. My brand new 2-volume commentary on the book of Revelation, verse by verse, chapter by chapter. This is not a watered down, allegorized replacement theology approach to Revelation. This is a literal, grammatical, historical study, the way the Lord intended his word to be read. And I connect the prophecy of Revelation to the headlines you're watching unfold right now, the rise of global government and the convergence of end-time events the Lord Jesus warned us about. Folks, we are living in serious days, and there has never been a more important time to understand what God has told us about what is coming. Get your 2-volume Revelation commentary today at worldviewstore.com. That's worldviewstore.com.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
Welcome back from the break. Thanks for being with us tonight and every night, and for remembering we are a listener-supported network, and you can do so at worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. You also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail, worldviewfoundation.com. Don't forget about the opportunity to be a legacy giver. Please consider going to Worldview Foundation and reading up on how you can leave the Worldview Foundation in your estate plans. Many families have done that, and it's a great way to give the legacy of a biblical worldview. As we continue now in my 36 years of, well, doing just that, defending the truth of a biblical worldview. Started with my first book in 1990. So again, please consider legacy giving. All the details are there at worldviewfoundation.com. And Revelation Volume 1, 2, and 3, they're off to the printer. And if you'd like to be guaranteed to receive all 3 volumes by this fall, then I would consider right now, if I were you, checking it out at worldviewstore.com and getting in your pre-order. Because again, these volumes now, well over 500 sets sold. And if we sell out, then it'll take 5 to 6 weeks to get the next print run done. So if you would like to give these as a gift for someone this coming Christmas, you might want to consider getting your pre-order in. Worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. Revelation, it's a layman's commentary. I describe it as commentary meets Tom Clancy, because I just loaded up with all kinds of news stories that I think shows the stage setting that's going on with so much described in Revelation. So again, Worldviewstore.com is where you'll find all the details, worldviewstore.com. And then, of course, our national conference is coming up Friday night, October 23rd, Saturday, October 24th, over 900 seats now spoken for at the Waukesha Expo Center. We'd love to have you be there. It's free, but you must have a ticket. We'll take a free will offering a couple times to offset cost. Please consider going now and getting your ticket at worldviewtube.com/events. We have a lower third for that. Worldviewtube.com/events. There it is, right there. All right. Oh, and by the way, you might want to consider our vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and our brand new Worldview and Bible software program where you can ask it a question and it'll answer it from our quarantined database of 36 years of radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, conferences, and more. Answers from great Bible teachers like Dr. John Whitcomb, Dr. Rob Linstead, Andy Woods, and so many more. Jimmy D. Young, Ron Carlson, some of these guys who are not even with us anymore, but their ministry continues because when you ask the Worldviewpedia, a research assistant, a question, it's going to bring up what is in our database from the last 36 years. And we're constantly adding to it literally every day. So worldviewtube.com/vault for more details. Our next story comes from Zero Hedge, and it covers a religious liberty case that's heading toward the U.S. Supreme Court with the potential to become one of the most consequential First Amendment rulings in a generation. The American Civil Liberties Union, they filed a 314-page petition with the U.S. Supreme Court on August 17th, asking the justices to review and overturn a Texas law known as Senate Bill 10. It requires every public elementary and secondary school classroom in the state to display an easily readable poster or framed copy of the Ten Commandments. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit upheld the Texas law in April in a 9-8 decision, which is one of the most closely divided rulings possible at the court. The Fifth Circuit's majority said the Texas law looks nothing like a historical religious establishment because it does not tell houses of worship what to believe, how to worship, or whom to employ. It does not punish those who reject the Ten Commandments. It doesn't impose taxes to support clergy or require churches to perform civic functions. The ACLU's petition argues the exact opposite, stating that the question of whether a state may impose scripture on impressionable, captive audience, that's children, for nearly every hour of every school day for up to 13 years, well, it implicates the most fundamental guarantees of the First Amendment. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton defended the law, calling it a major victory for Texas and our moral values. It's a great bill, I think, coming out of Texas, and more states seem to be duplicating it. So this Supreme Court decision, well, it could set precedents. We'll be watching it because, as I said, the ruling could shape the legal landscape for religious expression in public schools across the country. The court is likely to hear arguments next fall. Our next story comes from The Guardian, and it represents the biggest single Democratic primary upset of the entire 2026 election cycle. Florida State Representative Angie Nixon, a Democratic socialist who recently joined the DSA, that's the Democrat Socialists of America, defeated a retired lieutenant colonel by the name of Alexander Vidman. That was in the Florida Democratic Senate primary, and she did so by 56.1% to 43.9%. He will now face Republican Senator Ashley Moody, appointed to fill Marco Rubio's seat. And this will happen, of course, in November's general election. The upset, it was stunning on every measure because Vindman, he raised more than $16 million, roughly 16 times that of Nixon, who came in at approximately $975,000. He had national name recognition as the Army officer whose public testimony about Trump's phone call with Ukrainian President Zelensky helped drive Trump's first impeachment. He was so confident of victory that he had scheduled a fundraiser on the island of Nantucket the Sunday before the primary. He had the backing of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee as well. Well, Nixon won on grassroots, volunteers, and her signature hot pink wardrobe. She drove herself to events across the state. She relied on union members and door knockers and focused on kitchen table issues, including health care and child care costs. The context, well, it makes this even more striking. Vindman, he is a Kiev-born Jewish refugee from the former Soviet Union, whose family fled socialism. Nixon is the first DSA candidate to win a Senate primary in 2026, with all other socialist successors at the federal level confined to House races. She has pushed pro-Palestinian legislation at the state level and has advocated for what she calls de-escalation of the conflict with Iran. Nixon, she now faces, as I said, Ashley Moody in a state that Trump won by 13 percentage points back in 2024. Democrats, they have not held a Florida Senate seat since 2019. Well, now it is time for our nightly Worldview Report commentary. At 8:30 this morning, the United States Treasury did something it does not do without a reason. It stepped into the bond market and it announced it would become a much bigger buyer of its own long-term debt. Treasury Secretary said it's increasing the maximum size of its liquidity support buyback operations for longer dated securities by at least double, from $2 billion per operation to at least $4 billion per operation. That covers the 10 to 20 year and the 20 to 30 year portions of the market. It takes effect September 9th and runs through November 4th. The market reaction, it was immediate. The 30-year Treasury bond yield dropped more than 9 basis points to about 5.19%. The 10-year note, well, that fell about 4.65%. Stock futures, they jumped, and gold broke out to the upside. Now, why does a government suddenly announce it's going to start buying its own bonds? Because nobody else wants them. On Tuesday, the 30-year yield, it hit 5.33%. That's the highest level since June of 2007. CNBC reports the long end of the market has seen what traders call a buyer's strike since late June. That's the story behind the story. Because when yields go up, it means bond prices are going down. And bond prices go down when demand dries up. The world is being asked to lend this country money for 30 years, and the world's starting to say, not at that price. Axios laid out the reasons this week, and I want you to hear them because they're not complicated. One, well, of course, deficits are getting worse. The Congressional Budget Office last week raised its expectation for the annual federal deficit budget to be $2.1 trillion, $200 billion higher than it was projected to be back in February. Number two, competition for capital from the artificial intelligence build-out. That's going on. The technology giants, they've sold an enormous volume of corporate bonds in order to fund their data centers. And some of those companies, well, like Microsoft among them, they now carry better credit ratings than the United States government. So investors are buying that paper instead of ours, the government's. 3, there's uncertainty about the new Federal Reserve Chairman, Kevin Warsh. A bond strategist at the Bank of America told Axios there is a price to be paid for the lack of guidance. And the price is higher interest rates and a higher cost to the taxpayer. Read that list again. Washington cannot stop spending. Corporate America is outborrowing the sovereign. And the buyers, well, they're nervous. So the seller of the bonds has decided to become the buyer of the bonds. Let me tell you what the professionals are calling this. Deutsche Bank's head of foreign exchange research, George Sarvelas, he put out a note within minutes calling the move a soft form of financial repression and saying that it is structurally very similar to the Federal Reserve's old Operation Twist. In other words, he pointed out the obvious mechanics. Treasury has to issue more short-term bills to pay for taking the long-term duration out of the market. So nothing is retired. Nothing is paid off. Wealth partners, well, they said it plainly, that this is not a debt pay down. It's a rearrangement of the maturity schedule. In other words, the government swaps 30-year obligations for short-term paper that has to be rolled over again and again and again. It is refinancing the national credit card at the moment the interest rate is climbing and calling it liquidity support. Zero Hedge called it, what it looks like. Quantitative easing light. That means expanding the balance sheet. That means more inflation. The argument is that Treasury buybacks were always a soft form of quantitative easing, and that this announcement, arriving with total federal debt approaching now $40 trillion, well, that settles the debate. But watch what the dollar did, and watch what gold did. Because here's the part that touches your kitchen table. Deutsche Bank's warning is that if the price of Treasury bonds is not allowed to fall to where the market says it should fall, then the adjustment has to happen somewhere else. And it happens in the currency. The dollar takes the hit instead. That's not a Wall Street abstraction. That's the purchasing power of your paycheck, your pension, and your grandchildren's savings account. Folks, this is what financial repression means. It is the quiet policy of holding interest rates below where an honest market would set them so that the government can keep borrowing more and more. Well, the loss, well, that's spread silently across everybody who holds dollars. This is the hidden tax of inflation. And nobody gets to vote on it. Nobody signs a bill. There's no debate on the floor of the Senate. It just gets announced at 8:30 in the morning in a press release about liquidity. And it's over before most Americans have even finished their first cup of coffee. John Maynard Keynes, he said it. By this continuous process of inflation, well, we can steal the majority of the people's wealth. And not one man in a million will know what we're doing. Folks, we have a country about to hit this week or next $40 trillion in on-record debt, not counting off-record debt. We're servants, managing our servitude. Diluting the money is what they're doing, and then hoping that you don't notice. It's theft. So, do not confuse a lower yield with a solved problem. A patient whose fever breaks because you gave him an aspirin is still sick. And the debt, it didn't shrink today. It just got shuffled around. And the bill, well, it's still going to come due. And again, I don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion. But some folks who don't take action are going to find their savings account and life's work debased, diminished. I think we're headed toward life-altering inflation. You can do your due diligence and do something about it now, or you can wait and have to alter your life. That does it for this edition of the Worldview Report. Until next time, may God save America. Take care. I'm Brandon House, and welcome to Worldview Tube's history of the attempted assassination of President Ronald Reagan. On March 21st, 1981, Reagan and his wife Nancy attended a fundraising event at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. In his autobiography entitled An American Life, President Reagan wrote, quote, "I looked up at the presidential box above the stage where Abe Lincoln had been sitting the night he was shot and felt a curious sensation. I thought that even with all the Secret Service protection we now had, it was probably still possible for someone who had enough determination to get close enough to the president to shoot him," end quote. It was March 30th, 1981, just 69 days into Ronald Reagan's presidency. The new president, known for his optimism and charm, had already captured the nation's heart. But on that day, as he left the Washington Hilton after addressing a labor union conference, a shocking event would test his resilience and alter the course of American history. At 2:27 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, President Reagan emerged from the hotel's secure area known as President's Walk. We're here at the Washington Hilton. It was on March 30th, 1981. President Ronald Reagan survived an assassination attempt by gunman John Hinckley. At about 1:45 Washington time on March 30th, President Reagan arrived. He walked through a double door here, our door that's right behind this garage door that's now been installed. Prior to that, there was no garage. Since they have installed this garage door and bricked area, it's known as the President's Walk. It was actually put in here after the assassination of John F. Kennedy. It was known as a secure area. The Secret Service had done many events here, and the president didn't have very far to walk to his limo, the door being open right there. But he entered the President's Walk door just on the other side of that garage door on March 30th at 1:45. He came out after giving a speech. He came out at 2:27. When he did, he walked out of that door, headed toward his limo that's right behind our cameraman, Logan. One of the things I noticed when I was preparing to come here and visit was the wall that is here. And I could make out the stone. And right up here, you have a very unique stone that has that curve on this end and then on that end. But then you notice it has that little half circle up there. This is right where you see President Reagan's hand and his thumb lifted up to wave. So as he comes out of the door that's now behind this garage door, headed toward his limo back door, he raised his hand to wave, which again puts us lined up with the brick that we're able to actually identify based on the significant cuts in the brick, allow us to identify about where he was standing that day. That lining up pretty good, Logan?
Yes.
Yeah. Then someone called his name, Mr. Reagan, Mr. President, and he turns and does this. And that's when he was shot. As he approached his limousine, 25-year-old John Hinckley Jr. fired 6 shots from a .22 revolver. He fired them in under 2 seconds.
More about John Warnock Hinckley Jr. The Secret Service keeps tabs on 400 individuals it considers the most likely political assassins, but Hinckley's name was not on that list or among 25,000 other names of less probable presidential assailants. So just who is John Hinckley Jr.? We have reports beginning with Charles Murphy.
Highland Park is one of the richest suburban towns in America. John Hinckley and his family lived in a house that would sell today for around $300,000. Hinckley is barely remembered at Highland Park High School, where he graduated in 1973. His picture is in the yearbook, a neatly dressed young man, but teachers had trouble recalling anything about him. One classmate said he just sort of blended in.
He was a kid who didn't really have a lot that made him stand out.
No one from this period of his life could imagine him being accused of yesterday's crime.
To think that I knew someone who had shot a president and that I had no idea that he'd be capable of such an outrageous act.
When he left this neighborhood 8 years ago, he was, by all accounts, well-liked and seemingly normal. Then something went wrong. For the next few years, he would be an intermittent student at Texas Tech at Lubbock, an aimless, somewhat erratic student. The acquisition of guns started here, and on one of his last visits to Dallas last fall, he would buy 2 guns at Rocky's pawn shop, one of which the FBI says was used in the assassination attempt. Charles Murphy, ABC News, Dallas.
Hinckley would have been standing right in this area waiting for the president to exit. According to the numerous reports we've read, and there have been a lot of people that have studied this, there's some excellent books out about it, Hinckley was only about 15 feet, completely unscreened, and about 15 feet from the president, up against or near this wall, which is why now they've put this barricade there to keep people back and away. So this is how close he was.
Get him out! Get him out! Get him out! Get him out! Get the ambulance! All right, stay back! Get back! Get the ambulance! I got one hand!
The nation holds its breath as the president's life hangs in the balance. The bullets, they struck 4 men. The first hit Press Secretary James Brady in the head, leaving him paralyzed. The second struck D.C. police officer Thomas Delante. He was hit in the neck. The third missed. And the fourth hit Secret Service agent Timothy McCarthy in the chest as he shielded President Reagan.
Timothy J. McCarthy, welcome to the Michael Reagan Show.
Oh, thanks, Brandon. Nice talking to you today.
Thank you for being with us. I know our audience appreciates it as well. And we saw the images over and over again of that assassination attempt, which happened in a matter of seconds going down. And watching your bold and brave actions, I'm sure it was just a matter of natural instinct. That's the way you were trained. But give us your remembrance of that day and the events before, during, and after.
Well, there are no normal days when you're assigned to the President of the United States, but it was a day we were going to the Washington Hilton Hotel, and I arrived at the White House working a day shift around 6 o'clock in the morning for the normal briefings, and we were briefed up on the trip to the Washington Hilton. Special Agent Bill Green did the advance there. Everything seemed normal. He had about a week to do the advance, which was pretty normal, working with local police and all the other federal agencies to set up the security. There was no unusual intelligence on that date, certainly not anything about John Hinckley. We went to the Washington Hilton Hotel. The president gave his speech. In the briefing, they said, as we know, he was only president for about 60 days at that time, and he was still putting his government together, his cabinet and others. So they advised that we wouldn't be doing any rope lines, no handshaking. It was right back to the White House. So we're just about back to the armored limousine and preparing to leave to go back to the White House. But you never know. President Reagan, being the type of person he was, he loved to shake hands. If someone said, "Mr. President," he was going to go over there and shake hands and say hello to him. So you have to be watched very carefully. And so I was watching the president and watching the crowd, and everyone was saying, "Mr. President." And just I turned to see the president over my right shoulder. I looked back to the crowd, and John Hinckley was to my left and pushed himself forward and fired 6 rounds in about 1.5 seconds. And, of course, hit Tom Delahanty, Jim Brady, myself. The next round hit the armored window of the armored limousine. The round after that, miraculously, ricocheted off the car and hit the president under the left armpit as Jerry Parr and Ray Shattuck were pushing him into the car. And then the 6th round went across the street. And it was in spite of the fact that the president was wounded and quite frankly almost killed, it was a heck of a team effort by people like Bill Green, Ray Shattuck, Jerry Parr, Bob Wanko, a lot of agents that prevented him from being hit more than once, which I think helped save his life. I was injured laying on the ground, but I still had my radio on and was conscious up until the time they took me into surgery and heard that they were taking the president back to the White House. So I was extremely pleased to think at the moment that he wasn't injured. So I was, in spite of the fact I was in a little bit of pain, I felt, well, we accomplished our mission. I was deeply disappointed when I heard on my radio that the president was going to George Washington Hospital because I suspected that, of course, something was wrong. I arrived there.
Wearing a bulletproof vest?
Pardon me?
Were you wearing a bulletproof vest?
No, I don't bring that up, Brandon. The fact that ever since then you have to wear your vest anytime you leave the White House. But going back then to 1981, bulletproof vests, while we had them, they were pretty. Policemen and Secret Service was pretty much optional at that time. But after that, it became mandatory. And as we know, the president was seriously injured. He was almost killed by John Hinckley. But he was a big, strong guy, and he recovered well, and fortunately served out his presidency.
And when the shot started, you as we rewatched the footage of that day, you begin to back up toward the president to give cover. I mean, was this a conscious movement on your part, or was this just training?
Well, that's right, Brandon. It was training. We simulate those things in the Secret Service constantly. Videotape it, attack someone who is designated as the president. There's several theories that are used. The arm's reach theory, if the attacker is that close, or to cover and evacuate, which is normally the case. And my job was to cover the president as best I could. Ray Shattuck and Jerry Parr quickly pushed him into the car. Other agents were going at Hinckley at that moment. Other agents were on the follow-up car, preparing to get to the hospital and provide security there. So it was, if you look at a lot of the videotape, you'll find that a lot of the policemen and firemen hit the deck, took cover. It's exactly
they didn't have the training you did.
Exactly what they were supposed to do. Our training was quite different. To cover, make ourselves as big as we could, and evacuate the president.
Hold right there. We come back from the break. I want to hear the rest of the story and what you and President Reagan had to say to each other afterwards. You're listening to The Michael Reagan Show. My guest is former Secret Service agent Timothy J. McCarthy.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
And now, substitute teaching for Michael Reagan, education czar, Brandon House.
Visiting right now with Timothy J. McCarthy, Secret Service agent who stepped in front of the bullet and took it for President Reagan in 1981. As you know, one bullet ricocheted off of the car and caught him under the armpit. And it was very serious, one of these exploding bullets. We're visiting with him. He's joining us here on the Michael Reagan Show. A little bit later, we'll be joined by Ed Meese. Mr. McCarthy, let's pick up. You heard that the president was being rushed off to the hospital as you yourself kept your earpiece in, wanting to hear what was going on, even though you laid there with a bullet wound to the stomach. They took you to the hospital. They took the president to the hospital. Pick it up from there.
Well, actually, I was shot in the chest, Brandon.
Oh, were you?
I know the film shows that I grasped my abdomen.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, it hit me in the chest and then bounced around down through the lung, liver, and diaphragm, so everyone commonly thought I got hit in the stomach or abdomen, but I was hit in the chest. And it bounced around.
Because these were exploding bullets, were they not?
They were, in the sense that they had mercury capsules in them that were denser than the lead, so when they hit something hard, that mercury would go through the lead and create what would be considered an explosion of the lead. But we ended up at the hospital, and Jim Brady was at the hospital, too, all three of us. So it was quite a tense time for George Washington University. It's one thing to have one trauma patient. I suppose it's more to have worse to have two, but to all have three come in at one time. And, of course, the president was seriously wounded. Jim Brady had a catastrophic injury. Mine was bad, but and I was in critical condition for a couple days. But once I got out of surgery, I think they were pretty confident I was going to pull out. But we're certainly it led to the famous story that occurred at George Washington Hospital when Mrs. Reagan arrived, and she insisted on going into the emergency room, and no one was going to stop her. I don't think anyone could have if they wanted to. And she got into the emergency room, and she saw the president, who wasn't doing too well at the time, and they grabbed hands, and as the president said, he goes, "Honey, I forgot to duck." But he did duck, He kind of got pushed. He didn't try to do it, but he got pushed into the car. But anyway, it led to a lot of great stories and anecdotes and so forth that the president told, throughout his presidency.
So when you finally recovered yourself, how many months was that, and then you were back on duty, what were your first words that you and President Reagan had with each other?
Well, actually, the first words go back to the hospital.
Really?
Yeah. I got out in about 10 days, and I was off for about 3 months. And my wife and 2 children at that time came up to the hospital to pick me up to take me home. And I got a message from the president's staff. The president and Mrs. Reagan wanted to see me before I went home. And so I felt that was kind of a bit of an order. It can't come from much higher as far as I'm concerned. So my wife and 2 kids and I went down to see the president and Mrs. Reagan, and he was looking pretty good, but he was also still connected to a lot of those medical machines and so forth. And my 2 kids were 2 and 4 at the time, so my wife, being the doting mother, so to speak, was keeping an eye on the kids because they were doing what kids do at age 2 and 4, and they're around the president of the United States, who's hooked up to a few machines still, though recovering rapidly. And so we had a very nice visit. My wife was getting nervous, when seeing the kids. They might pull a tube out here or there and not understand it. So we had a very nice visit. Mrs. Reagan was gracious as she always was, and as was the president. We were about to walk out the door, Brandon, to leave, and he said, "Tim, hold on, listen. It was McCarthy, Reagan, Delahanty, Brady. What the hell did this guy have against the Irish?" I'll tell you, you had to admire the man that could take something as serious as this. It was it could have changed the presidency. It could have changed the history of this country. And he had already put it in that perspective. When people say that, people wrote his remarks, he was one of the most spontaneous, funny, witty people I've ever run into. Few people know how many of his speeches that he wrote himself and so forth. And God, it made me. I said, listen, if the leader of the free world can put this in this perspective, I sure can too. And as a result, as soon as I was able to get back on duty, I was happy to do so.
The 5th bullet missed, but the 6th bullet, it ricocheted off the president's limousine, striking President Reagan under his left armpit. Special agent in charge, Jerry Parr, in a tan coat, reacts instantly, shoving President Reagan toward the limousine. Agent Ray Shattuck, he follows, hurling both men into the car. Agent Parr's quick thinking likely spares Reagan a direct hit in the head. As Hinckley fires, labor official Alfred Antonucci strikes Hinckley on the head.
Don't look to be a hero, never thought of a hero. I have to say this, that any man wearing a pair of pants that calls himself a man would have automatically done the same thing.
But the fact is, Al is the one who did it, at the risk of his own life. So in the eyes of many, he is a hero, witnessed by all the honors and awards he's received, including the highest, gifts from the White House, a phone conversation, and a letter from President Reagan. But amid all of this, he remains a modest man.
If somebody is falling or somebody is in danger, automatically you go to help them. You don't think of your life, you don't think of anything. I never thought of the gun. The gun was the farthest away from my mind. But after the first shot, and I saw the flame, I knew I had to break the aim of fire.
When you knocked Hinckley to the ground, you were yelling, "Kill him, kill him." Were you at all tempted to kill him at that time?
If it had to be the kill, I would have killed.
Do you think that an assassin should lose his life?
If the other party dies, definitely. I believe in an eye and an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Yes, very, very, very much.
In his letter, President Reagan thanked him by saying, "You responded in a manner that many individuals half your size would find difficult, and to a danger few people ever know." So even at 5 feet 2 inches, he might be small in stature, but when it comes to courage, he towers over most of us.
Secret Service agent Dennis McCarthy dives across the sidewalk, pinning Hinckley down. Another labor official, Frank McNamara, joins in, landing blows that draw blood. Agent Robert Wanko, he deploys an Uzi from a briefcase in order to secure the evacuation and deter any further threats. At 2:27 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Secret Service radio crackles shots fired. President Reagan's code name is Rawhide. He's rushed into the